across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good afternoon. Just gone 4 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Thank you to Ian Collins on a pretty seismic day, it has to be said. If you follow what's going on politically in this country, I think we have seen in the last hour or so events that will not go unnoticed, will not go untalked about, and could really set, I think, a basis for what's going to happen going forward politically. It was, of course, the big speech of the day by our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. It was just 14 months ago that this man roared into 10 Downing Street with a massive, massive majority, over 180 seats, with a promise that he would do away with the misery of the Tories, the noses in the trough, the jobs for the boys. This was about growth. This was about working people. That's all he said, working people, working people. In the last 14 months, they've gone from mishap to gaff to mishap to gaff, and it's got as bad as it can be. I think as we sit here, he's probably got the lowest approval rating of any Prime Minister. And Christ, we've had a few bad ones, to be fair, have we not? Today, though, tells you everything. A slew of polls will tell you that a party with only 5 seats in Reform, led by Nigel Farage, are in fact the concern for Keir Starmer. If you look at polling, Reform are on 35%. The Tories, Her Majesty's opposition, 121 seats, nowhere to be seen. So the Prime Minister of this country decides to use his keynote speech to the Labour conference, not to talk about how he and his government will improve the absolute mess this country's in so many ways. All he did, there was no substance. He spent the entire time, which tells you everything about his mindset, slagging off Nigel Farage. This is a clip. Have a listen. Have a watch.
We can all see these snake oil merchants on the right, on the left, but be in no doubt conference. None of them have any interest in national renewal, because decline is good for their business. I mean, think about it. When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does.
I'm going to try really hard to be as balanced as possible today. Nigel Farage, just move him out of the equation. How rich is it for Sir Keir Starmer to say that Nigel Farage and anybody who's a Reform voter isn't proud of the United Kingdom? I would respectfully suggest that most people have drifted towards Reform because they feel that this country and so much of what it was built upon has been eradicated because the left spends so much time wiping the backsides, if you like, of almost everybody, be it migrants, people who are screwing us financially on the dole when they shouldn't be, all of that. But there we go. But even more unprecedented than that crappy speech, right, was the sight in the last half an hour of Nigel Farage. Yes, he's a slick political performer, and yes, it's a game to a degree. He responded live from the Reform studios in London, stood like a Prime Minister in front of 2 Union Jacks, and basically said to Sir Keir Starmer, you have just called me and everybody in this country who is voting for Reform and supporting what we're talking about because we want our country back, you've labelled us racist. And that, my friend, says Farage, is an incredibly dangerous thing to do. This is Nigel Farage on Talk Drive.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral. And by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists. Now, I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it over the course of the last few years. But to accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organisations like that. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
Going to open it up to you on Drive. Listen, I've learnt over the last 3 years to respect everybody's opinions. The one thing about this station is it is about common sense. It's about, you know, freedom of speech. What do you make of that? Am I missing the point, right? A Prime Minister who's got nothing of substance to say, bar to label anybody that votes reform or thinks that reform is of interest. These people are racist, but to then confuse it, to conflate it by saying, oh, actually, Reform don't want anything good about the United Kingdom. They hate Britain. I think Starmer has just showed himself to be out of his depth, and I hate to, as I said, I don't want to make it sound like a game. I think Farage has completely and utterly outdone him there. It's 0344 499 1000. Loads of people want to be on already. We'll get your text messages, 87222. Just get them in, get the calls in. Jodie will rush around, so will Ryan. We'll do voice notes, same number, WhatsApp, 0344 499 1000. I want to go straight to the Labour Party conference, get a response. The Deputy Political Editor of The Sun, Ryan Sabey. Ryan, a very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Afternoon, Jeremy.
Extraordinary from our point of view. You're there. We see a speech with very little substance that decided to concentrate in its entirety on attacking a man who's only got 5 seats. Whatever your political persuasion, I should say, that's what he's decided to do. That the Tories are non-existent, right? That's the first thing I want to talk about. And then the even more unprecedented prime ministerial address by Nigel Farage in front of 2 flags, basically saying, you've called me and all my supporters racist, and that is dangerous with what's going on in the world. Your response, Ryan?
Yeah, no, it's totally kicked off really in the last hour or so. So Keir Starmer used that party conference speech, you know, the party faithful. In the actual hall, it feels like they were lapping it up. Look at the applause that he got, you know, standing ovations several times throughout that speech. But how does those attacks on Nigel Farage actually play out in the country? Well, it seems at the moment that it's not gone down too well. Just look at that response from Nigel Farage himself. I mean, it's a big call to say that, you know, question whether Nigel Farage loves this country. But Sir Keir Starmer says Nigel Farage in his sights, and he feels like that's the only way that he's got to claw back support from the wider public and to try and shore up his leadership. But I think that attack, we don't normally see it like that. We normally see maybe some quotes or maybe a response a few hours after you know, a Prime Minister's speech or a leader's speech at party conference. But Nigel Farage out within 10-15 minutes to respond to that, and pretty angry. From
your political point of view, you know, I mean, yes, I mean he made some joke the other day about, you know, Farage derangement syndrome. This is becoming more obvious by the minute. What was it? The leader of the Liberal Democrats the other day, Sir Ed Davey, at his conference in Bournemouth, mentioned Farage 32 times. It is extraordinary to think, is it not, that a party with just 5 seats, yes, they're riding high in the polls. There's no obvious reason to believe that they will or won't run the next. We don't know. Nobody knows. But does it not say something that a man with over 400 seats is that terrified of what's going on? I've nothing against it. They're going to be personal. They do it to each other's. But it was extraordinary to me. It was literally all on Farage. And you're right. In that hall, it will be lapped up by Labour. There will be newspapers on the Labour side who will lap it up. But I think what the point that Farage was trying to make later on was, what are you saying to millions and millions of people, right, who are so frustrated with the United Kingdom? This is what I find I mean, you know, listen, I'll be very honest. I was a lifelong Tory until the last election, but to say that Nigel Farage and Reform are un-British, don't like Britain, for a man who spent his entire time selling us down the river as a globalist by he and his left-wing human rights lawyer mates giving away the Chagos Islands, giving 500 million to the French to do bugger all about immigration, it seems to me like he is in panic mode, which says an awful lot, I think, about where Farage is. But then the Farage response, I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever... And this is a question for you. Has anybody mentioned the Tories, Ryan, at all?
I actually just written a piece just now, and one thing I pointed out, look how much Keir Starmer actually mentioned Nigel Farage. I don't think that Sir Keir Starmer mentioned Kemi Badenoch once. I'm pretty sure he didn't. I don't even think there's a gentle hint at Kemi Badenoch in that speech. And it seems to me that Sir Keir Starmer is just absolutely running scared of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is doing all the political running in this country. And Nigel Farage, it's all very well and good. The party leaders expect the to and fro and the attacks. But Nigel Farage has clocked this and thought, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is actually obsessing over him. And it's not just Sir Keir Starmer. Pretty much every single cabinet minister speech, the Chancellor, the Home Secretary, they all mention Nigel Farage. I mean, there are so many polls. I think Reform have led in pretty much all of them over the past 6 months or so.
The last 101 polls, I only know that. I know that for a fact. The last 101 polls.
It's a lot, and it seemed to me that they were getting closer to sort of winning a majority in those polls. But there was a poll done today by More in Common, and it seems that Nigel Farage is getting well over that line. So that is why Sir Keir Starmer is obsessed with it. But the racism row is interesting. Nigel Farage points out, if you're saying that his policies, Nigel Farage's policies, are racist, well, lots of people in the country like the cut of Nigel Farage's jib. So are you calling all those Farage supporters, perhaps those people who are part of that 30% cohort of backing reform, are you saying they're racist too? So I think this is just going to, Sir Keir Starmer said that, talks about division. Is this just going to sow even more division?
I mean, I think that's a really interesting point. And Nigel Farage finished by talking about what happened in America with Charlie Kirk. I mean, I've had the biggest response ever so far, and Ian, to this speech, because people are basically saying, so on the one hand, you're saying that anybody supporting reform doesn't care about the United Kingdom. I would respectfully suggest that the majority of people who at this moment are saying, I would vote reform, are simply saying, we are sick to death of you taking this country to be an easy ride, whether you're coming in illegally or you're work shy or you're just taking advantage. I said something the other day, Ryan, which I stand by absolutely, and I try and keep as straight on this as I can. I think it's really, really dangerous. Well, no, dangerous is the wrong word. I think it's a massive, massive own goal for him to be stupid enough, Starmer, to think that he is going to get away for the rest of his life by saying anybody that supports, and I've suspected it wrong, Farage is a racist or far right. Forget this station, forget the Sun, forget Labour conference. Go north of the M25 gap. Go to a place I spend loads of time in, Newcastle, full of working class men and women. That is pure reform, because they will say, we thought Labour were going to help us, working people. We thought that they were going to help with growth. They've done nothing. They've sat in London and proved themselves to perhaps be as bad, if not worse, than the Tories. So when he says on the one hand, reform and other parties don't care, but the obsession with Nigel Farage, but just hold on, shocking moment, Ryan Sabey. I've got an exclusive. I need some tumbleweed music. Could I get some tumbleweed music, please? Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative Party leader, has just responded, Ryan. Turn that sound down a little because poor Ryan can't hear. This is what Kemi Badenoch just said, right? Keir Starmer has all but confirmed that tax rises are coming. The Prime Minister could have used his speech to own up to the mistakes he's made on the economy, admit this country was living beyond its means, and set out a plan to avoid punishing tax hikes this autumn, but he did not. In Labour's first year, inflation has doubled, economic growth has halved, and unemployment has risen almost every single month. Everyone in Britain will now pay the price for Starmer's weakness with a smaller economy and higher taxes. That, Ryan Sabey, is Kemi Badenoch. Does anybody care? Cut the music.
Yeah, not particularly. I think the biggest the difficulty for her is the fact that she's got to try and grab the attention. Now, there seems to be only sort of one show in town at the moment, and it's Nigel Farage and Sir Keir Starmer. And she goes up to a party conference this weekend trying to grab some attention, but it's just proving really, really difficult. And I think the interesting thing about her comment there is that she doesn't get involved in that racism row or the immigration. She is thinking, right, the Conservative Party are just going to concentrate on the economy, food inflation going up by the end of the year. The cost of living crisis is still really, really difficult. So in one sense, you can think maybe it's sort of smart politics, but she's not getting involved in the real battle of today. So on one hand, she maybe sort of think that's the best way that she can actually steal some headlines and grab some attention, but she really needs to sort of fight Nigel Farage and Keir Starmer on the terms that they've set today. Otherwise, she's just going to be totally lost in this political argument.
I mean, you can see it now. There's a vacuum, and you can see that she's going to go to the Tory party conference to talk about the ECHR, and everybody's going to go, well, Farage talked about that. I said this yesterday on the show. I felt like, right or wrong, good or bad, what Farage seems to do is he seems to grab the initiative. He seems to be on the front foot. Everybody else seems to be reactionary. But from your political knowledge, from the job that you've done, Starmer using his entire speech not to talk about how he'd improve the country, but to attack a man that's just got 5 MPs, which includes himself, and to make those two comments. One, Nigel Farage doesn't love the United Kingdom, and two, everybody that supports him is essentially a racist and a bigot and far right. In your political experience, is that not a panicked and rather huge-looking mistake right now?
Yeah, I think it just shows that, you know, Keir Starmer is running scared of Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is setting the political weather, and Sir Keir Starmer he doesn't know how to grapple with that. This is the sort of unknown. We're so used to two-party politics, Conservatives against Labour, that we've got this third party who is doing the running. And I think it's going to be really, really difficult for Sir Keir to actually sort of grab the initiative back in the next few months and years. And we're so far away from a general election, so this argument about division and the racism argument, immigration, is just going to ramp up and ramp up. And I think one thing that Sir Keir Starmer also mentioned in his speech was talking about the economy and talking about how businesses bore the brunt of the tax rises last year, and saying in the long term he thinks that could be good, that will be good for growth. Well, try telling that to the businesses who are having to pay more national insurance.
Absolutely.
So again, it's a very, very difficult argument to sort of tell that and explain. I'm not quite sure Sir Keir Starmer got that one right. I mean, time may tell that, but it seems to me that taxing more people doesn't,
I think
more growth.
I think what today shows, whatever your politics, I think today shows me something that I've believed for a while, that our Prime Minister does not have the political know-how, the political antennae, just doesn't read the room, doesn't smell it, right? Love or hate Nigel Farage, right? He seems to have his finger on the pulse. He seems to have the ear of Great Britain. Whether he's right or wrong, time will tell. I think Starmer has had a second one ripped by Nigel Farage in the last hour. I genuinely believe that. And that is not me sitting here saying that Farage is going to be right in everything he does. But that was our Prime Minister panicking 14 months after walking into Downing Street and basically saying this man and anybody who supports him is a racist. Ryan, keep your nose to the ground, mate, doing a fantastic job with the sun up there. The Labour Party conference in Liverpool. Ryan Sabey, 4:20. I'm going straight to the phone lines. Listen, get your calls in, 0344 499 1000. Tony's in West Sussex. Tony, you're on Drive. Good afternoon.
Hi, listen, I listened to the whole speech by Starmer from start to finish. And this man is playing with fire. Because if anything, God forbid, should happen to Nigel Farage along the lines of Charlie Kirk, then blood will be on Starmer's hands and the Labour Party as well. Because Farage doesn't stoke personal attacks against the Prime Minister or Kemi Badenoch. He might say they're not good, they're inefficient. But this was vicious today. Absolutely vicious.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. And actually, what it does is, and why I was, I make no secret, I try and be as balanced as possible. What Nigel Farage did, standing there at a lectern with what looked like he had a lectern, he might as well have done, with the two flags. I would say this, and I'd love your response to this, peeps, if I'm right or wrong. 87222, the usual number, 0344 499 1000. I would respectfully suggest, Tony, that only one person looked Prime Ministerial this afternoon, and it certainly wasn't Sir Keir Starmer. The minute you lower, and it's not just Farage, he can take that, right? He said it himself. We're talking to you. You're a racist, you are. That makes me a racist. We're racist, apparently, according to Sir Keir Starmer. Well, and isn't that ludicrous? Isn't that ludicrous when most people I suspect who support reform would say, without any shadow of a doubt, that they're fed up of their country, the country that they believed in, being either given away or accepting people who are trashing our country. I find that astonishing what he said, Starmer.
Yeah, he had nothing about policy there, nothing about the economy, nothing about the upcoming budget, nothing other than let's have a go at Starmer at every point we can. Have a go at Farage, I'm sorry. But I just think he's a disgrace and he's got to go. He's useless. And do you know what really surprises me? That Labour MPs who were elected last year still put up with him.
Yeah, but hold on a second. What happened earlier, which Ryan told me about, actually, and I didn't even pick up on this, Wes Streeting, at this time last year, was sort of number 2, and he was the future, and he was going to be the way. They did a survey the other day of Labour sort of voters, Labour members, and he was bottom of the pile. Miliband was top, which tells you everything you want to know about those idiots. But this is the truth. Today, Wes Streeting, right, has a go at Nigel Farage and says he's a con man, he's fake, he doesn't care, and then calls for Angela Rayner to be caught back. Actually, I've got to play this clip for everybody. If you don't, as you're just coming in, Wes Streeting, right, this is how panicked they are, said, and I quote, have a watch, let's bring Angela Rayner back. Have a watch, have a listen.
Someone else who's made a real difference too, who understands the struggle care workers face because she was one. She brought that experience to the cabinet table as the care worker who became our country's Deputy Prime Minister. Angela Rayner, this achievement is yours. Thank you. And we want her back as well. We'll definitely make sure she sees that. We need her back.
I would respectfully suggest that Wes Streeting is simply only doing that because he thinks that gives him a chance if he says Angela Rayner. I think they're all mad. Listen, you lot have gone nuts. We'll go to the ad break with 2 voice notes. First up, Simon on Starmer. Go.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. Typical gaslighting nonsense from Keir Starmer, our esteemed idiotic Prime Minister. The usual guff directed towards reform, a party he is shaking with fear about. But you have to enjoy the extended story of his dad, the toolmaker. Pure comedy gold.
Is that the end of it? Is it? Thanks for letting me know that. That's very professional. And to the ad break, my friends, with Stevie, who's delighting us with a song for Labour conference. Go.
You put your reset in, reset out. You do the Labour shuffle and you turn about. You go to the conference where you spout. That's what it's all about. Oh, let's keep Farage outie. Oh, let's keep Farage outie. Oh, let's keep Starmer outie. Because that's all that Labour shout
about.
They've only got really 3 years to wait out until there's somebody else in the White House. And if it's a Democrat, they're in a great place because 8% support for Israel among Democrats at the moment, 6% if you drop to the youth age groups. and there's every chance that they could then leverage that at the UN Security Council and so on and so forth. So if I'm Hamas right now, I'm handing in my weapons, I'm claiming that I'm standing down, I'll send a few people to take one for the team and emigrate. And then I'm just going to wait, bide my time, reload, and then try and seize control of Gaza.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
4:28, pretty interesting afternoon here at Talk Towers, the home of free speech and common sense. If you just tuned in, where the hell have you been? Sir Keir Starmer used his keynote speech at the Labour Party conference this afternoon to basically not talk about anything about how he'd improve the disaster that is Great Britain. He basically said two things. He said Nigel Farage doesn't even like Britain, he's unpatriotic, he's a false patriot, and basically he went on to say, which is, I'm still sat here thinking, oh God. He basically said, if you support Nigel Farage, you're a racist. Everybody's far right. This country it's all about division, and Labour is the only party that can bring back a semblance of order, obviously not via the police or anything like that. Literally basically said that Nigel Farage was a racist. You then had this unbelievable scene. 5 minutes after Keir Starmer finishes his speech, right? You cut to Reform. They've only got 5 MPs. They've got a studio in London, right? And there is Nigel Farage stood in front of 2 flags, looking totally prime ministerial, who basically looks down the camera and says, what you've just said is divisive, it's dangerous. You've called everybody that's ever voted or supported Reform, over 35% in the last 101 opinion polls. You're basically saying that these people are racist and unpatriotic. This happened in America. Look what happened, the consequences of Charlie Kirk. This is really, really, really divisive and is not the way we should play politics in this country. I've sat here and tried to work it out. I personally think he's just ripped Keir Starmer a second one. We say a very good afternoon at that moment to Charlie Rowley. Your political... Just for once, we'll be serious for 2 minutes. Your political experience is as bad as all of that. Has he not just made a massive political gaffe, in your opinion?
Yes. And the reason I hesitated there is because I think he's thrown everything at it. He's put all his eggs in one basket now, which is to play the man. There was no policy, there's no future direction of the Labour Party, there was no meat on the boat. It was focused on one thing only, and that was Nigel Farage. And once you do that, and when you still fail to recognise why Nigel Farage is as popular as he is, and as a Labour Party, if you fail to accept that, you are dancing to Nigel's tune because he is setting the conversation of this country,
yes,
and you still can't get that, and you still want to attack that man for all of the things that he's done to put, the country back onto a firmer footing, to make sure we're having the conversations that we need to be having about all the problems in this country, then it's over. He's gambled all of this on trying to take down Nigel Farage.
Racists are the enemy and we will fight you. Do you know actually more galling, apart from listening to him call anybody who supports Reform a racist, is to hear this man say that Reform don't like Britain. Farage doesn't like Britain. He wants to turn us into a country of victims. This is a man who gave away the Chagos Islands. This is a man who the floodgates of immigration were going to be closed. It's got worse. This is a man who spends his time with his left-wing human rights lawyers' mates doing all he can to allow people the right to stay here rather than kick them out because that makes him look good globally. This is a man who spent more time abroad and hasn't even looked, I don't think, at what's going on in this country. I found that amazingly shocking. Shocking.
Exactly. A man who once used the speech that most people agreed with, that we're becoming an island of strangers because we don't know.
And then retracted it.
And then retracted it. To now go on this sort of strange footing of calling Nigel Farage effectively racist, and his policies are racist, and therefore, but couldn't even then come to terms with trying to articulate why he felt that way.
But you're saying it about everybody else.
You're saying it about everybody else.
And you're saying it about you've just called called millions of people in this country racist. And yet you said in the breath before, this country is at a fork, at a crossroads. It's all about division. I would respectfully suggest that Keir Starmer has just sown even greater division than there was before.
Definitely, because
unbelievable.
There will be,
unbelievable.
You know, trying to find something to hang on to what the Prime Minister said. There will be people out there who are far right and racist. There will be. There always have been. There always will be. There will be people who are far
because
left
I think it's
absolutely, who are also
completely
crackpots and all the rest of it that want to do this country down. But the overwhelming majority, 99.9% more so, of the British public that would have been on that march 3 weeks ago in central London and across the country, 99.999 recurring % of people that have been protesting
even
outside
Charlie's
Epping
angry.
Are people who are caring about their community.
And why I think it shows his political naivety, in fact his dumbness overall, is that after Southport, it seems in hindsight the government knew more and they could have stopped that. Maybe it suited them to allow this, but he very quickly jumped up and down and said, I'm not having these far-right thugs. They were dragged off the street, sent to court and put in jail within 24 hours. And I thought, yeah, fair enough. But you are not going to convince millions of people, starting, as you quite rightly say, in Epping, right, and looking across this country, you are not going to convince them that they can be labelled racist because they care about the safety of their teenage children, that they care about the future of their communities, that they care about the fact that they're 43rd in the queue to get a doctor or a dentist because everybody else is being prioritised. I mean, the racist thing, I've been insulted all my life. That's like water off a duck's back. But to tell me that Nigel Farage is not patriotic from a man who would give away so much of this country to look good with his mates in Europe or further afield is astonishing. I literally was like that. This is a huge mistake. We've got loads of things. You're a very, very busy man. Voice, do you know what voice notes are?
I do.
Steve, on Starmer, go.
I am proud of my country as a white English Briton, ex-army officer, husband, father and grandfather. I want my country to accept and help others where we can, but only when we have afforded to help our own. If that pride makes me racist, so be it. The problem is with those who would call me that, not me.
Couldn't agree more with you. That's Steve. This is Paul on Sir Keir Starmer as well.
I spent over 40 years wearing Her Majesty's uniforms, and I always consider myself a proud patriot. Now I'm a Reform supporter. I'm called a plastic patriot. It's absolutely amazing. And also they're now saying it's between decency and decline, which implies I'm not decent. I really do feel that the Labour Party have lost the argument on every agenda and they're now resorting to just nasty, nasty ways.
It's really interesting, isn't it? That's Paul. Both of them served their country, wore the uniform. I think that if Sir Keir, not that I think he'll get this, but when he sits down or wakes up tomorrow morning, he's going to realise he's made the biggest... Listen, I know Nigel Farage. I suspect he sat somewhere going, you utter idiot, I've got you. Because I literally think that is a huge, huge mistake. You all right to take some calls on me?
Of course, yeah.
Let's go to the Isle of Wight. Jennifer, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon.
Yes, hello. It was Mr Starmer, I won't call him Sir, it was Mr Starmer, who said that he would rather be in Davros than in Westminster. If he thinks he's going to be welcome at the cenotaph, leading with the royal family the country's remembrance of people who sacrificed everything for this country, he's got another thing coming. He won't be welcome there.
Charlie, she makes a really good point. You know, Starmer, the person who tries to be all things to all people, has just offended almost everybody who's fought for this country and done right by this country, who feel that we need to get back to patriotism, and that's why they're supporting reform.
Exactly. And, you know, how big a patriot can you be to support people, veterans that have worn that uniform, like that previous voice note, who have actually, you know, put their lives on their line to defend all of the freedoms that we enjoy, that lots of people don't, which is part of the attraction of people wanting to come here as it happens. But we have defended, and the idea of free speech, we've defended our liberties, we've defended our rights, we've been an example to the rest of the world. That's why we're so great. When that becomes eroded under a succession of people coming into the country illegally, where people don't make that contribution, where they piggyback on the back of hard-working taxpayers whose money is going to fund people coming from abroad into hotels, when you've got veterans still sleeping on the streets, that is when you completely have lost touch and lost a sense of direction and lost your moral compass as to why you're in government in the first place.
Jennifer, can I ask you a question? Are you a Reform supporter?
I am now.
Now, that's really interesting. What do you mean by that?
Well, I have traditionally voted for one of the two other parties. I come actually from a family where my father grew up in dreadful poverty in Manchester, and of course they were Labour supporters. He would not recognise today's Labour party.
Well, I have to tell you that if you support reform, you're a racist, madam.
Oh, yes, I'm a right-wing thug. Yes, probably going to get well known for it. Yes, I'm very proud to be a right-wing thug if it means that I don't agree with Mr. Starmer.
I love you, Jennifer. It's great. How's the Isle of Wight doing? Is it all right?
It's lovely and sunny today. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your time and thank you for being on Talk Drive. We've got a new caller in West Yorkshire. Colleen, you're on Talk Drive. Charlie Rowley's with me. How you doing?
I'm fine. I normally send you a message, but today I was angry. I wanted to come on the phone. That speech that Starmer gave and his MPs give, it's nothing but a great insult.
Insult to who, Colleen?
Millions of people. And those MPs should not be going home today smiling, thinking about a good conference. They should be going home and thinking, where am I going to work next? Because I'm going to be out of a job.
Are you a reform voter?
I certainly am now.
You're a racist, madam.
I know, and I'm proud.
God, I didn't think I'd be having people say that. Charlie, can I ask you, Colleen, I'm not being rude, how old are you?
76.
I bet you don't recognise this country, do you, my darling?
I certainly don't. I certainly do not.
It's interesting, Charlie, isn't it, that the first 4 calls we've had on this show, 2 have been people who've served, 2 are people in their 60s and 70s who cannot believe what they're seeing, cannot believe the way this has happened. Now, politics is... I mean, somebody just sent me a message, which I'm going to read. I don't have to say that I agree with it, but it does make you wonder whether... you look at... Basically, it says, well, we've seen this before. This is what Kamala Harris tried to do to Donald Trump. Now, I don't want anything like happened in the United States of America, but I will say this. I think that what he said just then has opened up a whole can of whoop-ass.
Totally, totally. And do you know why people, when they listen to Kamala, maybe say something along those lines in America, and why people voted for Trump, why everybody, people who were black American, who were LGBT, gay Americans, Latino Americans, that were women, they all voted for Donald Trump. Because you know what? It's not about boxing people into these different groups and categories. Women were scared for their communities, as mothers, as daughters, as aunties, as grandparents, as grandmothers, for the safety of their children. Migrants who had moved into America legally, who'd paid in, made a contribution, they voted for Trump because they didn't want illegal migrants coming in, chancing their arm, not doing it the right way in which they had done it previously.
Before you go, and we love having you on, and I want you every week, very quickly we should touch upon Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, has responded saying he's all but confirmed tax rises are coming. He hasn't, you know, inflation's doubled, economic growth has gone, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't want to get involved in that argument. I don't want to upset you, but they are about as important as this bottle of hand sanitizer. I mean, I cannot believe that Her Majesty's opposition with 121 seats, not even a mention, nothing, mate. They are finished, aren't they?
It's...
And you're a Tory. I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, in the short term, the dividing lines have been drawn. You know, it is Labour versus Reform. You know, the Labour Party see Nigel Farage as as the leader of the opposition. He is the threat. He's the one that is leading the polls. He's the one that's leading the arguments. He's the one that is leading the narrative of which everybody is dancing to his tune. And you're absolutely right what you said earlier. I think people in Reform HQ would have been, you know, clapping their hands and saying, you know, this is gold dust because of the way in which Keir Starmer again has failed to understand the mood of the country, because he hasn't got a political bone in his body. He doesn't get it. Now, Kemi has got... She was always going to have a difficult position anyway, because the Tories failed to deal with immigration. They failed to cut taxes. They failed to do things that people in this country
wanted. And she said bugger all for 14 months.
And so it's going to be very difficult. She's going to have to try and navigate this path of saying now, I would argue, look, you know, Labour and Reform are fighting it out. She wants sensible government. That's all she can say. Are they the party to do it? It's going to be very difficult. I would argue probably not.
Love having you on. Don't ever keep your phone off. We love having you on. Charlie Rowley, thank you very much indeed. It's 19 minutes to 4. Listen, 5. We're going to balance this. We're going to speak to Tan Dhesi next, Chairman of the Defence Committee, Labour MP for Slough. This man, I suspect, is going to say it was a great speech. Can't wait. Back in 3.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're live across the UK. JK on Talk Drive, the home of free speech and common sense. We're talking about in extraordinary response to Sir Keir Starmer's Labour conference speech. Many people saying no substance at all. It really was just an hour of attacking Nigel Farage. He's accused Farage of not liking Britain. He wants to turn this country into a country of victims. It's all about division. It's all about railing against people. The response from Nigel Farage was immediate. He said that Labour, the rhetoric incites violence, and for every single person who's thinking of or did vote for reform, you've just been labelled a racist. We're delighted to get a Labour response. Tan Dhesi, Chairman of the Defence Committee, Labour MP for Slough, good man, there he is in all his glory. Tan, good afternoon, sir. How are you? Welcome to Talk Drive.
Hi, Jeremy. Good afternoon. Wonderful to join you again.
We're mates. I'm going to ask you the obvious question. Your leader, his speech. I know you're a loyal Labour MP. Have you any idea inside that hall what your leader's just done?
Look, one thing that I can say to you is here from Liverpool, from the Labour conference, that what we saw is an attempt to get decency into our public polity, to make sure that we are trying to overcome that division, because division will mean decline. We've got people who are trying to tear apart the very social fabric of the country. So what we needed was a speech to unite all of us, to unite the UK, and that, I think, is what Sir Keir Starmer managed to do, that the Prime Minister was making sure that we are putting clear blue water between the Labour Party and the likes of the Reform Party and the Conservatives.
Well, I'll take you up.
The key aspect that we've got.
Okay, let me take you up on several things.
Go on, Jeremy. Go on.
Let's start with the Tory party. He didn't mention the Tory party. He did exactly what Sir Ed Davey did, which was mention repeatedly Nigel Farage, and that would tell all of us who are not at Labour conference in that bubble that the Labour Party now sees Nigel Farage and Reform, despite the fact it's only got 5 MPs, as obviously the official opposition, bearing in mind, I think somebody gave me the data, Tan, that it's the last 101 polls. But I want to pick you up on one word, my friend. You talk about decency and you talk about division. The reason I asked you whether, away from the bubble of where you are, my friend, you have any idea what he's just done, your leader has basically just said to millions of people who are so frustrated that they feel their country is being trodden over, who feel that United Kingdom is losing their identity, your leader's just called those people racists, in impact, hasn't he? He's basically, you could argue that actually by using the language he's done, it's not about decency. He stoked the very fires that you say he wants to put out.
Jeremy, I would beg to differ. Well, I think what Keir did there was to make sure that he is showing that he's a Prime Minister for the whole of the country. As he has said, it's not racist to have concerns about different issues, whether it's immigration, whether it's other things happening within our society, but it's the manner in which we conduct the debate. What we saw, for example, in those hard right, the far right protests that were going on, which were spurred on by the likes of Stephen Yaxley-Lennon or Nigel Farage.
Are you talking about the marches in London? Can I? Sorry. I need to ask you. Are you talking about?
We need to stand up.
Are you talking about the marches 3 weeks ago in London? Because if you are, I would respectfully suggest this is the point to me that needs being made in a calm way. I don't think you and your party are going to be able to suggest any more. This is what I took from today. I think the easy thing in the past has been to say far-right thugs. And by the way, let me tell you, I've no time for those thugs. I don't think anybody should. There's far left, there's far right. What I'm trying to say to you in a decent way, Tan, is that there are millions of people, working people, right, who feel that they're not allowed to fly their flag, they're not allowed to be proud of their country, that they are being treated as second-class citizens behind immigrants who are getting far more, despite... We've had that debate, and that your party is no longer going to win this debate by simply labelling millions and millions of people as far right. I didn't hear your leader say, I understand your concerns.
I think that's exactly what he said, Jeremy. He said, look, I understand the concerns of many people up and down the country that want solutions, those working people. And he classified his own family, coming from a working class background, as to how we need to invest in our education, how we need to invest in those 5 million extra NHS appointments that have been delivered, whether it's the 700,000 extra dentist appointments that have been delivered, the various bits of investment that are going into youth centres, into technical colleges, how we're going to make sure that everybody in our country can aspire. And in terms of waving the flag, I think you will have seen during the conference, whether it was the Union Jacks, the flags were flying, but in a very, very different manner to how certain people on the far right, what we are trying to do is to reclaim the flags, that it's representative for all of us, in the UK. Look, I'm proud to be British. I want to make sure that flag represents all of us, not a select few.
Let me get your response to something that I think is the most extraordinary thing I've seen in politics in all my years. Nigel Farage, within minutes of your leader finishing attacking him and anybody who votes for reform, appeared at the Reform headquarters in London with 2 Union Jacks. This is what he had to say about Sir Keir Starmer's speech.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, reform supporters, reform voters, reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists. Now, I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it over the course of the last few years. But to accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organisations like that. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
Tan Dhesi, MP for Slough, Labour MP at Labour conference in Liverpool. What's your response to what Nigel Farage has said?
Look, Jeremy, the person that's being divisive, and has been for a long, long time, is actually Nigel Farage. What was being said there has been completely misconstrued by Nigel as usual. It wasn't the fact that the Prime Minister was accusing any particular voters or the wider British public of being racist. What was being said was that some of the policies being espoused by Reform, that they themselves, those policies are racist in the sense that indefinite leave to remain, those people who have been in the country for not years but decades, how they could be stripped of that indefinite leave to remain. That in itself is racist, because those are our neighbours. Those are people. Look, I'm born and brought up.
Can I ask you two very?
Remember, Jeremy, who this actually targets non-EU people within the UK who are citizens of our country, who have made an enormous contribution over decades.
Two things. If by implication, I think the suggestion would be from many people that we're hearing from, and there's always two sides to the argument. That's why we wanted you to come on. If you say, as you've just said, he's not really targeting people, he's saying that Nigel, and then you said some of his policies, millions and millions of people, the last poll will tell you over 35% of this country thinks that the language that Nigel Farage is using is not racist, it's correct. So by implication, by saying it, that's what people are taking from this. We've had people who have worn the uniform, people who have served. But I will ask you this, and I love speaking to you, and I mean that. I respect you as a politician. Do you believe that Nigel Farage is a racist, Tan Dhesi?
Well, look, remember, what Keir Starmer has done is not calling Nigel Farage a racist up to now. It's just when certain policies are rolled out, including that indefinite leave to remain, that will target non-EU citizens. Remember, first of all, that policy was to cover all. But when he suddenly realised that that couldn't actually operate for EU citizens, people who had gained settled status, then all of a sudden it wasn't about those EU citizens who had managed to get indefinite leave to remain or
Tan,
status.
I get that,
and
I'm not trying
then
to
target people from the Commonwealth.
Tan, I get that, and I hate the fact
from those wearing uniform. Some of us are very, very proud.
Yeah, I know that.
Of our
please don't get angry with me, but unfortunately, as ever,
I will never get angry at you, Joe.
All right, unfortunately, I have to go. Just answer me one question: do you, Tan Dhesi, believe that Nigel Farage is a racist? Yes or no?
Look, what Nigel Farage, some of his policies are racist, and that's what needs to be called out. What we need to do is unite the country. We need to actually deliver on that change. We need to get those extra NHS appointments. We need to build those houses. We need to get those 1.5 million homes retrofitted as well. We need to get that affordable and social housing.
Tan, I have to go, my friend.
We need to provide jobs and opportunities for our young people, and that is what a Labour government will deliver.
All right, my friend, really appreciate your time there at the Liberal Party conference, Tan, or even Labour. Tan Dhesi, Labour MP.
Fake news.
Don't start. See you in 3.
And there's every chance that they could then leverage that at the UN Security Council and so on and so forth. So if I'm Hamas right now, I'm handing in my weapons, I'm claiming that I'm standing down. I'll send a few people to take one for the team and emigrate. And then I'm just going to wait, bide my time, reload, and then try and seize control of Gaza.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, the phones are blown up, the text messages are blown up. One thing you get on Talk, the home of common sense, you get no...
You're fake news.
No, we're not.
Fake news.
Yeah, there's a lot of that around. Honest to God. So many of you agreeing with me. Jez, thank God for Nigel Farage having our backs. It will be desperately dark as a future without him. That's Rich from Cheltenham. Dave's in Oxford. What I've just watched from Starmer was utterly disgusting. He's stoking up huge division in this country. This country's on the edge. I see something very bad happening. It's 100% going to be on his hands. They are a danger. He is a danger. That is Dave in Oxford. Alison's in Billericay. Reform odds on to win the next election. It seems to be that he's having a go at everybody, Starmer, because he's panicking. Christina, hi Jez, watching Nigel may be proud to be British. The word racist is now used and no longer holds the shame it used to be. Most of us are proud to be Reform UK voters. I refuse to be insulted by that man. Margaret, Starmer spouting codswallop, deluded and still not getting it. He has in 15 months taken a wrecking ball to my dear country. All choreographed, utter ridiculous policies. Wayne, Jez, if there was any doubt that the political sands are shifting, then today you're the answer. Today you've the answer. The political elite are dust in this country. Tanya, Jez, Nige just ripped Starmer a second. Oh, yes, love it, says Tanya. Voice note, Terry. Perry, go!
Hello, Jeremy. It's taken me a lot of courage to come on here today. But, you know, you can't get help unless you admit that you've got a problem. So, hello, everyone. My name's Perry, and I'm a racist because I love my country.
Perry, thanks for your honesty. I'll sit on the step, I'll get my microphone out, and we'll talk about how you can move forward in your life, and perhaps we can send you to some of the groups that we've got to help you deal with the affliction that you've got. He makes a point, though, doesn't he, peeps? Anybody who dares to think that you should be proud of... Oh, no, hold on a second. Starmer said that Nigel Farage Reform aren't proud of their country. All right, I see. Anyway, there we go. Listen, we've got the chairman of Reform UK, Dr David Bull. You'll know him. A good mate of all of ours. Used to be here at Talk. He's now the chairman of Reform UK. He will respond to that personal attack on Nigel Farage and every single Reform voter in the next few minutes on this station. If you want to be part of the debate in the next 2 hours, 03... coughing, never have a biscuit. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. The news at 5 is next on Talk Drive.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's just gone 5 o'clock. Every single time I sit down at this desk, I think it's going to be a nice, calm day, but it's happened again, hasn't it? The leader of our great country, Sir Keir Starmer, has used his keynote speech. Oh, sorry, did I say our great country? No, sorry, it's not, is it? It's an absolute ragbag mess. The leader of our country, Sir Keir Starmer, has used his keynote address at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, if you've just tuned in, not to talk about how his government are going to deal with the issues like immigration, with a National Health Service that's failing, with all sorts of problems. No. He used it on one thing and one thing only, which was to attack Nigel Farage, which is his right. That's absolutely his right. But we heard nothing about what's gone wrong. We heard only about how Nigel Farage is, and I quote, un-British, unpatriotic, he doesn't like this country, talks it down, and basically said that the people that sow division, people who stir the pot, people who want to vote reform are essentially racist. That's what he was saying. This is Starmer. Have a listen.
We can all see these snake oil merchants on the right, on the left, but be in no doubt conference. None of them have any interest in national renewal, because decline is good for their business. I mean, think about it. When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does.
I'll try and keep balance. Decline is an open goal for them to score in business. Did he not come into power because the Tories had so messed up that he said bugger all for 2 years and got elected? In unprecedented scenes after that, with everybody going, hold on a minute, what does that mean about me? Not me, you. I'm talking to you, me, yeah. Nigel Farage pops up at the Reform Studios in London, straight away, Prime Ministerial, 2 Union Jacks, and basically says this.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, reform supporters, reform voters, reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists. Now, I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it over the course of the last few years. But to accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organisations like that. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
We've spoken to Tan Dhesi, a Labour MP at conference. We played him that clip and said, is Nigel Farage a racist? He started talking about the NHS. We're now delighted to be joined live from London, the chairman of Reform UK, good friend of all of ours here at Talk, Dr. David Bull. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, very well, thanks very much indeed, Jeremy. Look, what happened this afternoon is quite extraordinary. Keir Starmer's speech, I thought, was like a wet weekend in Brighton. And not only that, it was lacking in sort of direction, it was lacking in governance, it was lacking in any kind of ideas, it was totally rudderless, rather like his own premiership. And so obviously what does he do? He turns his fire and his attention onto Nigel Farage and to all of us in Reform UK. Now, remember, we're polling. We're number one. We're polling at 33% across the country. We represent the majority of people in this country and their views. And essentially, Keir Starmer is calling Nigel Farage and us and the electorate and people who watch and listen to Talk racist.
Completely.
And that's unacceptable.
I'm going to start slightly differently, because that was in itself gobsmacking. I mean, I watched it open-mouthed. The first thing that I was open-mouthed about, David, was he said, and I quote, Farage doesn't even like Britain. He wants to turn us into a country of victims and division. Now, with respect, this is a man whose councils banned the flag. This is a man who gave away the Chagos Islands and 16 billion quid, which means Mauritians peeps for the next 12 months won't be paying any income tax while yours probably goes up again. That, for me, was an astonishing thing to say. He isn't proud of being British. Surely what reform would base itself on, you'd know, you're the chairman, is actually that people have come to reform because they're fed up of our country being treated as it's been treated.
Well, 100%. And of course, he's destroying small businesses, isn't he? The employer's national insurance from 13.8% up to 15%. He's destroying family farms as well. Of course, many farmers around the country in absolute horror about what is going on. Don't forget, he gave away our fish as well. I was an MEP in the European Parliament. And of course, the whole point of Brexit was to take back control of our money, laws, borders, and by the way, fish. And Keir Starmer doesn't care about that and gave the fish away for the next 12 years. As you say, he gave away the Chagos Islands. Look, I know Nigel Farage very well. I have never met a more patriotic person in this country. And that is the whole point of this party, which is we are about putting British people first. I want British jobs for British people. We need people to be richer in this country. We need to take the poorest in society out of the poverty trap. And we do that by growing the economy and actually making sure this country grows, develops and prospers.
I couldn't agree more. He then goes, I mean, what was unprecedented for me, and can you cut back to David, because I want to see his face, right? I said earlier that this that we're seeing on screen now, Nigel stood there with two flags, was only missing a lectern and it was inside number 10. In an instant, right, he looked utterly prime ministerial and he very, very quickly said, basically, you are attacking every reform voter, every reform supporter, every part of the media that is looking at a different way of approaching this. You are basically saying, you numpty, to millions of people, you're racist, which is incredibly divisive. When he stood up initially and said, we don't want division, we want to sit and talk. It would be fair to say, and I wish I could zoom in on your face. How many people were smiling and clapping at Reform HQ? Because I think that's the biggest political own goal I've seen in flipping years, David.
So what he doesn't understand is a year ago we had 30,000 members. We now have 252,000 members. We're only 50,000 short of Labour in terms of membership. We've already overtaken the Conservative Party. I'll tell you what, Jeremy, next week when we look at the number of members and also the opinion polls, I reckon Keir Starmer has just given us the biggest electoral bounce we have needed for a while. I think this man is completely out of touch. Let me just touch on something else he said. If you remember back to his speech, he said, we talk a lot about Britain is broken. He said Britain is not broken. Has he actually been to the high streets? Has he tried to do anything in this country? Has he tried to get a GP appointment? Because I think if you go around this country and talk to most people on the street, they will say Britain is broken. And that's the whole point of what we're doing, is we need to change this country for good.
I couldn't agree more. I'm interested in the sort of the way that people would take it. You guys do this for a living. Did you look at that as I did and go, that's just living proof you've got no political antennae. You've just basically played entirely into a shrewd political operator's hands. You're supposed to be the Prime Minister. I don't know who's advising you, you idiot, but that's pennies from heaven. Isn't it?
Well, it is. And also, if you look at his premiership, the whole point of this speach for him at conference is for him to reset the direction of his party.
Another one.
He talks about his drive, his vision for the country, how he's going to move the country forward. I didn't hear anything apart from mumbo jumbo, word salad. And actually, in the office here where we were watching that speech, most people nodded off and went for a cup of tea because there wasn't actually anything substantive in it, was there? There was nothing that made me feel passionate about this country, for example, or where the Labour Party is taking it. The Labour Party is in total denial of what is going on. Now, we want a general election. The latest MRP poll, which is the big poll, shows that actually if a general election was called today, we are polling at 33%. We would get in with 373 seats. We'd have a working majority of 57. And I'm telling you, with every month, every year that goes past to the next general election, our poll ratings are only going to go up. And we know that we will become the party of government. And I, as chairman, am determined that Nigel Farage will become the next Prime Minister of this great country.
Couldn't agree more. Just very quickly, can we go back to your old presenting duties? Can we get a couple of callers on who want to talk to DB? Dr. DB, look, he's still the same. He's got that pink tie on again with that pink thing. Let's go to... Yeah, I do. New caller in Kent. Jess, you're on Talk Drive, and David Bull, Chairman of Reform, is with me. What do you want to say, my darling?
Well, I'm just wondering when the police are going to turn up to arrest Keir Starmer on the basis that he's inciting violence and racism.
David, what a fantastic question from Jess.
It's a brilliant question, Jess, and actually there are real implications. In fact, there's an event taking place tonight, a bigger reform event taking place. I've just had the organiser on to me saying she's now very worried about security at that event. What should she do differently? Now, this is a regional event, which is in Surrey. And so the fact is that you've got law-abiding citizens just going to a political rally, now worried for their own safety because the Prime Minister is essentially inciting violence against our party, against the direction of travel. He has a lot to answer for. And in fact, I think he should be held responsible for those really inflammatory words. And Jess, for most people in this country, and I know a lot of Talk viewers and listeners having worked there for a long time, they will be absolutely apoplectic at what the Prime Minister is doing.
It's true, Jess, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He's not my Prime Minister and never will be. I really wish that there was some way that we could have a general election now.
One thing I would say, actually, with you on, Jess, and you, David, and we've spoken off-air loads and loads about this, Mike Graham, to his credit, has been saying for months, even when people were laughing at him, that even on day one, he said, this is as good as it gets. This is never, ever going to last. They don't have the intelligence. They don't have a plan. This will crumble. Now, people will say, how can we go on for 4 years? I believe the Labour Party, as Mike has said for a long time, will get rid of Starmer, and I believe they will either go to the left. I don't see any other outcome. I don't know whether we have to carry on for 4 years. If we do, we're going to be bankrupt. But I do believe in the power of the silent majority. The silent majority, Dave, are on the move in terms of their voice gets heard, right?
So there's really something really interesting. As you know, Jeremy, I'm going around the country talking to people in all parts of the country tomorrow.
What, outside the M25? How
outside
shocking.
The M25. Yeah. Tomorrow I'm in Preston again. The point is that actually, as someone who has been involved in politics for a long time, I have never seen what I am seeing. There is a huge kind of turquoise tidal wave happening, and these are people who are tribally, traditionally Labour voters coming across to us saying, you are the last hope. I've had people in tears saying you have to save this country. I've also got former Conservative voters saying that actually the Conservative Party is no longer Conservative. It is not a party they believe in. So I have never seen a movement like this, and actually I keep saying this statement as I go around the country. This party is being built from the ground up and not the top down, and I think that makes the really big difference. And my job as chairman is to be in the middle of that and to be the conduit between those people in the local organisations and associations and then central office, head office here in London. And so I agree with you. I don't think Starmer will hang on. No. I think he will be deposed, and probably fairly shortly. The question is, when does that general election happen? And I spoke to Nigel about this. We are both pretty clear. It's probably going to be within the next 2 years.
Couldn't agree more. Let's get another new caller on. They're going mad today in Winchester. John, you're with me and David Bull, the chairman of Reform. What do you want to say, my friend?
Hi, Jeremy. Hi, David. I've just been incensed at that. I listened to that Starmer speech. He's gone and put a target on Nigel's back, and I'm just so upset at the way he's gone about it. You know, my memory's not great at my age, but I can always remember going back pre-COVID, pre-2016, it might be 2010, when everybody was having a go at Nigel, the left, the press, everybody. And when he fought that, I think it was the European elections, I mean, I think he was down to 1% at one time. And then after everybody kept going after him, he picked up, 22 seats? This is happening again. This is going to happen again. This was a nail in Starmer's and the party's coffin.
Absolutely.
I've got 4 friends who are on the fence, and I've spoken to them this afternoon. They're Conservatives in Winchester and Liberals. Because of what they said about Nigel this afternoon, they're going reform. I've been reform for years now, but they are, and this is what's going to happen in families now. Because in a lot of families, you've got split families where you might have one reform voter. People don't like people like Nigel being attacked by this. No matter what their political leaning is, you can't do that to people.
Well, can I pick up on that to David, actually? I mean, it's what I was trying to say at the beginning, really. Real political naivety, real desperate... Jodie said something earlier. You can tell when somebody reacts in a way that they're scared. And there's no doubt. And what I find astonishing, and I want to bring it on to this, thanks, John, David, is that a party with 5 MPs, right, is literally... is causing so much traction, is on the front foot, right, that not only is our Prime Minister obsessed now with Nigel Farage, not only is that idiot in the clown suit, Sir Ed Davey, who I think has answers about the post office to deal with, frankly, that's my opinion, he mentioned his name 32 times. I mean, I read this out. Kemi Badenoch came out with a statement about half an hour ago. Her Majesty's opposition is completely and utterly redundant, David, isn't it? Nobody cares.
It is, absolutely. And if you notice, Keir Starmer talks about Reform UK as being the official opposition. Yeah. We only have 5 MPs. Now, I'm determined to change that. But actually, today, having been with Nigel, I think he is very personally hurt because these insults are about playing the man and not the ball. And the minute that you start attacking the man who is the leader of this party, who has been responsible for driving this party forward, and you attacking his personal safety and security, that is a step far too far. And I think that plays to the British people's sense of fairness, which actually... suddenly the battle lines have been redrawn.
I think you're right, and I think it's not just Reform voters who have been Reform voters from the beginning. I think you're right, and I think that, you know, we live in this world where the Labour government and the Tory government before now will talk about free speech and they'll talk about everybody having a right to have their opinion. It strikes me that there is genuinely real fear amongst the 2 main parties that actually we're about to see something very seismic. And I keep repeating, I probably done it to you off air, a text I got weeks ago from a guy who said, Jez, it's really simple. When the silent majority realise their voices can be heard, the government of whatever colour is in political trouble. And I think it's really, really important to make that point to people. You don't have... I mean, obviously, I'm going to open up a helpline today after we've spoken, and I'm going to play soft music, and I'm going to say that if you are a Reform voter... Here we go, let's just get this feeling. I'm just going to make the announcement now with the chairman of Reform. If you are a Reform voter or a supporter, you are a racist, and feel free to ring me and I will give you some free advice. And David, you'd support that, wouldn't you? We want to make people feel OK about being that like that. Right?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous, isn't it? Actually, it's personally very insulting. It is.
It is.
If you look at it, also, if you look at the membership of who is joining Reform UK, former Labour voters are coming across to us of all ethnicities. It's about being joined by British values and culture. It's nothing to do with your skin colour at all. And actually, when you look at it, something like 40% of former Labour voters are coming across to us. Here's the other thing they will level at us, which is we're a party only of old people. Well, actually, that's not true. 60% of our voters are under the age of 50.
Isn't it very interesting that rhetoric has been spread? You're right. It's all old people who, you know, don't understand what's going on. From what you've said, and I've seen it myself, it is gathering support across all age groups. I'm going to put you on the hoof here. I hope you don't mind. We've just seen this. What's your response to David Lammy? Have you heard about this? Who's just said on the BBC that Nigel Farage flirted with the Hitler Youth. God.
Well, as far as I'm aware, Nigel wouldn't have been old enough to be in the Hitler Youth, so I think David Lammy probably needs a history lesson. But again, here we go again. This is the point, which is actually this is guttural politics. And whilst he thinks it's very clever, actually, what this is doing is sowing division and it's sowing societal fracturing. And I think they need to be very careful about what they are doing because they are alienating huge chunks of this country, people who are passionate passionate, hard-working Brits who want to make this country great again, who want to see a control on the migration crisis. Remember, stop the boats, smash the gangs, all this nonsense. Nothing's happened. 38,000 so far this year, 50,000 since Labour took power. This Labour Party has no policies, no substance and no idea, and it needs to leave office.
And it's really interesting. I'm going to play that clip because I've just got it, and I'll tell you why I'm going to play it. You talk about guttural politics. You're right. I believe that the establishment, the two main parties, believed that they could throw reform into the bin by simply saying it was far right. What's happened is we've now got the ruling party in this country relying on guttural politics because they are out of ideas. I'm going to play it to you, I hope you don't mind. This is David Lammy earlier about Nigel Farage. This is how low the Labour... They're panicking. Listen to this, my friends.
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public.
It's extraordinary, David, isn't it? It's
unbelievable in so many ways that A, he would go that low, B, he could be so historically inaccurate. And also, when you look at what they said in that speech, choose decency or division, which I think is an absolutely outrageous comment, first of all. This is a fight for the soul of our country. Yes, we need to get rid of the Labour Party to actually restore the soul of this country. And then he calls us snake oil merchants on the right. I mean, either you've got some good policies, either you know how you're going to change the direction of this country, or I suggest, in a very kind manner, that you leave Number 10 and you leave office and let someone who knows how to run this country get on with it.
Mate, really appreciate you coming on. I know how busy you are. Just one final question. It must be a roller coaster right now, but a fun one.
Yes, it is. Well, you know, because we've spoken on the phone, but I mean, yes, it's an all-consuming job. But also, just for me, having gone from talkTV and being, you know, hosting Weekend Breakfast to being the chairman of Reform UK, the fastest growing political party I think ever seen in British history, and the fastest growing political party in this country. But also, for me, the joy of going around this country and seeing the passion and the fact that people are coming together saying we can build a better country, that's pretty amazing.
Listen, we miss you here, but it's great to be in touch, and thank you so much. I nearly said the Honourable. No, it's a very dishonourable.
Not yet.
Thank you very much. Dr David Bull, former talk presenter, now chairman of Reform UK, responding to those Labour attacks that's just been ramped up even further, because David Lammy's just on the BBC and said that Nigel Farage flirted with the Hitler Youth. This is unbelievable. Talk Drive.
what Keir said was that we got it wrong in not appreciating just how much of an issue it was across the country when it came to migration. And migration is lots of different things. I mean, it is obviously asylum seeking, it is small boats, and it is obviously legal migration, for which the open borders policy of the previous government, really caused a lot of damage to public trust in this country, and we now recognise that. I don't think at the time we recognised just how much it was becoming a priority deeply rooted in communities around the country. We do. We're now acting on it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 5:27. We're live across the UK. We spoke to Tan Dhesi, of course, Labour MP, who said when I asked him whether Nigel Farage was racist, started talking about the NHS. I've spoken to Dr David Bull, chairman of Reform UK, who says it's a bit rich, is it not, to stand up and talk about division and then to basically say to everybody who's considering voting for reform or supporting it, look at the opinion polls, you're all racist, very divisive. And then we follow that with David Lammy just now, who said that Nigel Farage, in his opinion, used to be part of the Hitler Youth. Politics. Here's a man who knows about 30 years of politics. Legendary Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. And remember, Nige, we have none of this here.
Fake news. Fake news. Fake news.
Yeah.
Love it.
You've always been totally honest with me. I have had this afternoon this sort of extraordinary moment. I've watched a Prime Minister who 15 months ago strode into 10 Downing Street with over 180-seat majority, realised that the walls are caving in so closely that all he can do is basically say to Nigel Farage, you're unpatriotic, you hate the United Kingdom, and in essence, almost everybody, despite the fact you're leading in every opinion poll and have for the last 100, is essentially racist and divisive. And then, as if that wasn't like, woo, hold on a minute, Nigel Farage immediately, 2 flags, only missing a lectern on the number 10 thing, stands up and says, you've lowered yourself to a level I didn't think possible. You've called everybody who supports this party and this belief the worst thing possible. Disgrace. Astonishing, Nige, no? Astonishing.
Yeah, well, I listened to the speech and I just got the sense in my gut. I'm listening to the Prime Minister of this country. If he wants to take on reform, all he needs to do is introduce policies which are in line with the wishes of the British people. That's all he needs to do. Yeah. But the fact is, he's attacked the pensioners, he's attacked the farmers, he has broken his promises on council tax not going up, and yes, they've gone up. Inflation's out of control, borrowing's out of control. All he needs to do is to actually introduce policies that he said he would do during the general election. So I thought his attack on Nigel Farage personally was insulting, but even worse than all of that, I thought David Lammy's comments afterwards, which I saw, were disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful, for the Deputy Prime Minister of this country to accuse Nigel Farage of flirting with the Hitler Youth when he was young is an absolute disgrace. He needs to apologise quickly, and Keir Starmer needs to sack him.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I hate to draw the analogy, Nige. Kamala Harris tried to do exactly the same, somebody pointed out, in America. The orange man baby, as we know, stood firm. I suspect, and we just had Dr David Bull on, good friend of ours, and I suspect there were many in Reform HQ this afternoon just rubbing their hands with joy, because to me, and I'm not a political operative like you were, that is the biggest own, and he's had a few, to be honest, hasn't he, Starmer, in the last 15 months. I mean, 4 years out, you're resorting to that, mate. You can't win that argument. You've just insulted millions of people, and you're quite right. He's hacked off the pensioners, he's hacked off the farmers, he's hacked off the waspy women, and most people who thought they were going to get an energy cut. It's very interesting to me that David Bull said they get as many ex-Labour voters now coming to Reform as Tories. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, under his watch, he's lost the support of half the people who voted for him at the last general election. I mean, this conference has all been about whether Andy Burnham was going to take over from him or not.
When I started the show yesterday, Andy Burnham was attacking him, and by the time I finished, he was in full retreat. I'd like to ask you about one thing, though. You know all about conferences. There was this golden child a few years ago called Wes Streeting. Everybody said he's the anointed one. I saw a list the other day of the Labour front bench and how the members rate them. He was bottom. At the top was Ed Millipede, which would frighten anybody and tell you everything you need to know. Wes Streeting, talk about pitching, stands up today. Actually, I don't know if you've seen it. I'm going to play it. This is absolutely extraordinary. Wes Streeting, ladies and gentlemen, earlier at conference. Have a watch, have a listen.
Someone else who's made a real difference too, who understands the struggle care workers face because she was one. She brought that experience to the cabinet table as the care worker who became our country's Deputy Prime Minister. Angela Rayner, this achievement is yours. Thank you. And we want her back as well. We'll definitely make sure she sees that. We need her back.
Nige, sorry, a woman who understands the struggles that care workers go through, but doesn't really understand the rules about taking out a bloody mortgage. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. I thought Wes let himself down a bit there, I have to say. But the fact is, Jeremy, he is one of the leading lights within the current Labour Party. And if Keir Starmer was to resign either soon or indeed straight after the May elections next year, then I think Wes probably stands a very good chance for taking over. But I'd be amazed, because one of the first things somebody's going to say to him is, are you bringing Angela Rayner back if you're Prime Minister?
Well, I'm cynical. I think he said it because that might shore up support for him amongst certain trade unions and members. Now, I know that... Where are you, by the way? Some other exotic...
Xavier in Spain.
Oh, Jesus. How's the book going? Am I in the book yet?
Yeah, no, but chapter 25. Don't worry, up to chapter 20. Still a few chapters to go, Jeremy, so...
Listen, I rescued you from Little Chef in Warwickshire. Don't keep me out that book, Evans. Now, you know what I'm going to say to you, because I say it every time, and you're very, very honest, and we love having you on the show. You're always more than welcome, you know that. What also stuck out today was that our Prime Minister, the leading party, with 100... You know what's coming, I can see with your eyes... spent the entirety of his conference speech slagging off a person who heads a party that's got 5 seats, who's undoubtedly on the front foot and leading the conversation on almost any policy. Kemi Badenoch. I mean, by the day, by the hour, by the minute, becoming less relevant, Nige. Genuine concern. I mean, nothing. She's going to pitch up at your conference next week and say we're leaving the ECHR, and all the main papers are going to go, and the broadcasters. Well, I think you'll find Farage said that 6 months ago.
That's right. It's going to be very interesting to see what Kemi is going to say. What I hope she doesn't do is spend any considerable time attacking Nigel Farage. What people want to know is what she would do if she was Prime Minister. And so that is the reality. Listen, I know why Keir Starmer basically sidelined Kemi and went for the juggler. And I think he's wrong about Nigel Farage. And that's because we've just gone through a whole set of local government elections where Reform swept the board. They would have even got a larger number of local authority councillors had there been more council elections, because, as you remember, a lot of them were suspended for a year. We've got more elections coming up next May. We've got a by-election in Caerphilly next month for the Welsh Assembly elections, and Reform are expected to take that. The reason why Keir is going for the juggler for Farage is because he's been so effective in putting forward policies which, quite frankly, are in tune with what a ton of people out in the country want to hear. I just think it's a disgrace what he's done, and attacking the man personally, as he did today, I think is appalling, particularly considering some of the attacks that he's come under himself, Farage. As you remember, somebody threw some...
That person's unbelievably... Time to call out ITV. The person that allegedly threw something at him is on Celebrity Big Brother, for Christ's sake. How worrying is that? Nigel, I know you're... Apparently, I've got to let you go because you're very busy. What you've now... See, I saved you from Little Chef, and now you have to leave me. 3 questions. Don't squirm. You're in Spain. Are you ready to throw the towel in yet and leave the Tory party?
Not yet.
It's honest. Yet's the interesting word, I'm learning. Secondly, do you believe that any of Reform's policies are racist?
No.
And Nigel Evans, 30 years as a brilliant MP for the Ribble Valley and former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. Do you believe that Nigel Farage is a racist?
Absolutely not. I've known Nigel for a considerable number of years. I count him as a personal friend of mine. He is not a racist.
Great to have you on, buddy. Get me in that book, please, for Christ's sake. It's anything I'm hanging on to. Nigel Evans, legend, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, responding. You see what he said? Not yet. There's a lot of people in the Tory party, and it seems the Labour Party, according to Dr David Bull, who really have had enough. I can promise you one thing on this station. You will get truth and you will get honesty, OK? But if you are, there'll be absolutely no...
Come on. You are fake news.
Not on this
okay?
station.
You're fake news.
I love this so much. I promise you this. Just whatever you're doing, drive time this afternoon. Maybe my mother-in-law's doing the ironing. She irons my father-in-law's socks, for Christ's sake. I know. She's doing the ironing. People are driving, coming home from work. Maybe you are a Green Party member. Maybe you're a Liberal Democrat. Maybe you're a Tory. Maybe you're a Labour. Have a great afternoon. If you're a Reform voter or a Reform member or anything to do with the Reform, you're a racist. And I think it only right and proper that we say to you out there, I'm here for you. I'm here for you to open up and talk about how that label has made you feel. The team are ready to take your call. Getting into it again. I'll sit on the step and we can have a little chat about how this will affect the impact of your life. Just remember, there's always somebody out there to talk to, and that this afternoon is me, but you're racist. See you in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
He's our captain, he's the main man. He's back tomorrow morning from 6 o'clock. Mike Graham with Morning Glory on the home of free speech and common sense. This is JKM Drive. On the day that the Labour Prime Minister with a 180-seat majority decided to just concentrate on attacking a party of 5 MPs led by Nigel Farage Reform, he basically said, you don't care about Britain, you're not proud of being British, and you're all racist. Yes, you out there. And actually, can I just... I'm going to make more of this as well. David Lammy just now giving an interview on the BBC saying that Nigel Farage, how could you trust a man that flirted with the Hitler Youth? This is guttural politics. I'm going to play this clip again from Lammy because this is utterly, utterly disgraceful. Here we go.
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public.
I can tell you in the last 2 minutes, David Lammy has been forced to apologise for hysterically accusing Nigel Farage of flirting with the Hitler Youth. So that took 20 minutes, didn't it, Lammy? Get your nose out the trough and your head out your backside and let's talk facts, shall we? The facts are that millions of people have been labelled all sorts of things today by your leader. Some quotes. Darryl in Blackburn. Nigel Farage was born in 1964, he's 61. I must have been bloody Doctor Who if he was flirting with the Hitler Youth. Lammy is an absolute fool. On division... actually, this is interesting. Paul in Belfast, well, he could have done until he apologised. Paul in Belfast, surely Nigel Farage can take Lammy to court for libel and defamation. Well, he could have done. He's apologised. On division, this is... I don't know. Starmer and his whole cabinet alienated most of the 51% of our population that are women by saying women can have penises. Now that historical lightweight Lammy is talking about Hitler. They've completely lost the plot. Richard Vowles, Jezza, good show. If Starmer wants to call me a racist for standing up for my country, that must make him a bloody Marxist. Matt Medhurst. Starmer saying Farage doesn't love Great Britain. Starmer the man who prefers Davos. Just saying. Matt in Bromley. A very good afternoon to you. Hello to Pete Ramsey. Farage can't say anything positive about Britain. Of course he can't. Labour are going to be in power for another 3.5 bloody years. Roses in South Wales. Starmer's speech will surely guarantee thousands more members for reform. I don't know. Bob says... my name is Nat. Oh, sorry. Yes, my name is Nat, actually, not Rob. And I'm a big racist because I love the UK, despite what Kia Sausages says. Oh, yes, let's release the sausages. Frank's in Derbyshire. Starmer's father wasn't a toolmaker. He was a bloody fool-maker. Alan Jarvis. Tan. This is Tan Dhesi, Labour MP on at 5:45 an hour ago. At 5:45, I asked him, I said, look, is Nigel Farage a racist? Are reforms policies racist? Nigel Evans could answer it there, former Deputy Speaker. Tan Dhesi started talking about the NHS. Tan is a typical self-righteous Labour MP, doesn't answer the question, just talks over everyone. A good fit for the Labour Party. Alan in Bedford. Dave Ness, he's in Hull. Jezza, Tan Dhesi has just proved why no one will ever vote for Labour again. He has not got a clue about the mood of this country and its citizens. I think Keir's speech will be his political downfall. Lorraine, Tan Dhesi, I have heard it all now. So patriotism, according to Dhesi, is all about how you wave the flag. Labour members wave it in a non-racist way. Well, the hundreds of thousands of people who marched through London, apparently they did it in a racist manner. Delusional, desperate and duplicitous. I can't even say that word. Dave H. Does it? Give it scrap, damn it. I've written to my MP asking him when Mr Starmer will be making an apology to all present and retired servicemen and women for effectively calling my wife and I racist for not agreeing with his policies. We served 30 years between us, says Dave and Carol. They're in Dorset. They are utterly, utterly offended. Natasha, Tan Dhesi having a laugh. The only people causing division are Starmer and Labour. And finally, for now, Alison, united by calling 20 million people racist. Excellent. They are as thick as mince. He is toast. Almost 5:45. We're live across the UK to the phone lines. New callers all afternoon. Madness on this station. Stanley is in Northamptonshire. Stanley, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon.
Hello, Jeremy. I don't make a habit of this, but I'm obviously incensed by the conversation or the commentary that Starmer put on politics.
Yep.
It's absolutely scandalous. And I think Kemi Badenoch really is missing a trick, because she should be demanding TV time almost immediately. Nigel, who was one in front of everybody else, he knew what was coming. Right, he judged and he read the room before the Labour Party conference, and fair play to him.
I'll tell you exactly what he did. I'll tell you exactly what he did, because I was talking to them this morning. They're so switched on, they thought if he's going to say anything that we can respond to, we'll book the TV space and get ready. They might not have used it. The point you make about Kemi Badenoch is a really interesting one. They are so irrelevant now of their own making. She's still telling everybody and anybody we're working out where we went wrong. Whilst that's happening, Miss Badenoch, Farage has disappeared into the distance, followed by Starmer calling him every name under the sun. Can I get your response, by the way, to David Lammy? He's just been forced to apologise for hysterically accusing Farage of flirting with the Hitler Youth.
He should be forced to resign.
Couldn't agree more. Great to have you on, Stanley. New caller.
And also, with Kemi, if I may just make a comment. Yep. I think with Kemi, obviously, the fact that she is supposedly to be the largest opposition party in Parliament, she should immediately be working out the way that they can, what shall we say, approach the situation and ask for a vote of no confidence, or Starmer is incompetent to run this country.
I think we know that, Stanley. The problem for Kemi Badenoch is nobody's listening to her. Thank you, my friend. Another new caller. Let's go to Blackburn. Paul, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm not bad, mate. Slightly incensed, but there we go. What's your response to all of this madness this afternoon?
Well, it was two questions, really. These came to mind when David Bull was on. Firstly, when Reform win the next general election, and I do mean when and not if, what are they going to do about the civil service, the blob? Because I'm absolutely sure that right at this moment there are civil servants wargaming what would happen if Reform win, when Reform win, and how are they going to defeat Reform and stop them doing anything?
I've asked this question to Richard Tice, to Nigel Farage, to David Bull, and their answer is all the same, that they are at this moment 4 years out, legally preparing, as you know, I think Danny Kruger defected from the Tories to Reform a couple of weeks ago. He's in charge of preparing for government. Whether they get to government or not, that would be down to the British people. But I think everybody learned a lesson from Labour saying, Paul, that, you know, the first 100 days will hit the ground running. They had a woman called Sue Gray arranging the whole 100 days. Thing is, she got sacked before the 100 days were up. Look, you're absolutely right. We can say the uni-party experiment's dead and buried. These are experienced men and women who have run businesses. Sarah Poachin, a magistrate for 20 years, right? But maybe they will come up against the blob. They will all tell you, to a man and a woman, it is about will, and it is about elected people having the right to do what they want, because that's what the British public have asked for. I would only say this. I completely agree with you that the blob and certain institutions will now even more than ever attack Farage. But I think today's outpouring of real anger against what Starmer has done will send a chilling message to institutions that actually the will of the silent majority is becoming more important on a daily basis. Do you know what I mean?
My second question goes a bit deeper. In fact, it goes back about 125 years. What are they going to do about the Fabian Society? These are the Marxists who are the power, the fifth columnists behind every single left-wing organisation, Labour government and Labour person in the blob. Every Labour Prime Minister has been a member of the Fabians, including Blair and Starmer.
Well, whether they have or not, right, and it's not for me to question what people belong or don't belong to. Reform say they've got a plan, and Reform say they will deal with it. I guess the most important thing right now, Paul, is to concentrate on people just having their say and having their moment and believing in what they believe in. Thank you for your call. 10 to 6. My God, it's gone nuts. So tell you what we'll do. Let's go to an ad break, right, with 2 voice notes. We've got... don't push the button yet. We've got Angela first on Starmer. Go, Angela.
So Tan Dhesi just couldn't say a yes or a no, could he? I think it was disgraceful. And I think people like him stir up racial hatred. This is becoming dangerous. And I'm fed up with it. I'm sick to death of people being insulting and throwing around the word racism. And what it's doing, it's diluting real racism. How dare they? How dare Labour say we are racist? How dare they stir up this racial hatred? I hope they get out of government pretty soon. But if we have to wait 4 years, I hope they get the biggest defeat ever, because they don't deserve to be our government. They are a disgrace.
Really interesting note there from Angela. The anger, you can hear it, the emotion in the voice. That's what calling millions of people racist will do. We'll go to the ad break. This is Hannah on Starmer. Go.
Well, my name's Hannah. I live in Cheshire, and me, my husband and our children are clearly racist because we were part of the march. We have a Union Jack flag on our house and in our car, and he is the son of an African immigrant who came here legally in the 80s, and he has brown skin, and so do our children. But according to Starmer, we're racist. We're racist because we hate what's happening to this country. We're racist because we don't like the fact our children are no longer safe, and we're racist because we don't like paying for hotels for illegal, unchecked fighting age men to pour into this country. I am sick of it. He has to go.
I get voice notes and calls the whole time. That call should be played on loop on Talk. It's almost 10 to 6.
Isn't it funny how Nigel Farage seems to be dominating the Labour Party conference?
He's a bigger feature of the Labour conference and indeed the Lib Dem conference than he was of our own conference. You've seen the Home Secretary yesterday announcing a very much watered-down plan to deal with ILR, which sounds good in principle. Of course, it's not racist when she says it. It's only racist when we say it.
But that's the weird thing, isn't it? Because
her plan won't tackle those that are already here. It won't tackle the Boris wave, which is where we've come. 3.8 million people have come since the referendum. On current trends, we'd expect almost 1 million to qualify for ILR and then qualify for benefits.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Some breaking news for you before we do the sport. Matthew Torbett, friend of this station, who's on at 6:25, has just put on X. He says, I've agonised over making this public because I didn't want to embarrass the party. But after 2 emails and no response, I feel I have to share my concerns at what seems to be a freedom of speech issue. He has been critical of the Labour Party and they have revoked his pass to the conference. He can't get in. What happened to free speech? You got the Deputy Prime Minister calling Nigel Farage a friend of Hitler Youth. We've emailed the Labour Party to get a response. This is turning out to be an afternoon. Push the button, Baldy.
Sports news from The Sun.
I literally can't believe I said Baldy. I know Dave saw. I forgot we were on air. Push the button, Davey. A very good afternoon. To the legend is Mike Anstead. How are you? Hammer's got a point last night, Mikey. A fellow Hammer.
Who'd believe it? Yep. The Nuno impact straight away. It's fantastic. A man with a plan. We like it.
Thought they played well in the second half. The goal was a disaster again. That was from a corner. But we were talking off air. You think Nuno will sort out Kilman, especially? He had him at Wolves, right?
I thought, look, Max Kilman needs to improve. He's a £45 million defender. He needs to bring better leadership, better kind of organisations at defence. Mavropanos, who he's playing next to, is a League One lumper defender. He's useless. So Nuno needs to get in there, make Kilman a leader, find who he's going to play next to in that defence. Should be okay.
I like the look of that new left back. I don't know his name. Diouf, I think. That's really good.
He's been fantastic so far. Yeah, real.
No
positive.
place for James Ward-Prowse in the team. I think he's probably toast. Jose Mourinho, the big news of the night. Some great stuff online of Mourinho going back. I'll always be Chelsea. And your man yesterday, his name I've forgotten, who was on the show, Scoggedino. He was saying they held the conferences for Chelsea in the room where 3 of the 5 big pictures were all of Jose looking down, and it's extraordinary. And there was a great thing of him embracing members of the Chelsea, people who have worked there, like Kath off the front desk.
Teresa Keneally, who's worked there since the 70s, she's a fantastic woman. Look, she's one of those unsung heroes in any football club. Jose leaves the press conference yesterday. Camera still looks at him, following him around, and gives her a fantastic hug. She's there having an off-the-camera chat. They know each other for the last 20 years. He really cares and he knows what it means to be at Chelsea. He also knows, walking back there tonight, he is the most successful manager in their history.
It's going to be very interesting if you're Enzo Maresca tonight, because a couple of defeats. At Chelsea, that means the disaster. Did well in his first season, very well. They're playing Benfica. Benfica under Mourinho, 3 games in, 2 wins and a draw, I think. 3rd in the Portuguese Liga. Does Jose Mourinho get a better cheer tonight than Enzo Maresca? I bet he does.
Absolutely. Look, if you go down the pub and you speak to most Chelsea fans, I know Mourinho's become a bit of a pantomime villain in the Premier League. Most Chelsea fans will look you in the eye, deadly serious. I'd have him back as a manager. Look, he is a legend.
I wanted him as England manager.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an absolute legend there. And look, will he get a massive cheer there tonight? Absolutely. They'll be singing his name all night. Well, not necessarily all night long, but certainly during some period.
What if he does a job and Benfica do Chelsea?
Well, been singing his name even longer after the final whistle. Will they be cheering Enzo Maresca's name? No, they're not really warming to him.
He's quite a dry character.
Well, though, he is dry. I mean, they're all dry compared to Mourinho. Mourinho's at least got something about him, but to be fair, they didn't do badly.
When results are going well, it makes it a lot easier, and results aren't going well there at the moment.
Well, I was going to say, two defeats at Chelsea, and it's all a bit of a disaster. Last night's game, actually, there was a booking for Kieran Dewsbury Hall. Extraordinary, unbelievable. And he's got a one-match ban. Outrageous. I don't know if you've seen the tackle.
I think it's good going that someone's got a ban in the Premier League before September's out. I think that's really good going. I think we should sort of show our admiration for Dewsbury Hall in the first place. But look, he's raging. I don't know if you saw the Merseyside derby.
Yeah, I did. I got back for the last bit.
He was absolutely fuming because he took a free kick too quickly. Didn't take too long. He took a free kick too quickly, got booked. Last night, a very innocuous challenge, another yellow card, 5th match ban. I mean, you saw the way he was slamming his fist into the ground several times.
He was going to break his arm at one point.
Exactly. He's called the decision mind-boggling. Everton are furious. I mean, look, there's always an issue with Premier League refs. Howard Webb's going to be on the telly in another hour or so trying to explain a few more of them on.
Good luck.
It's just a weekly basis, isn't it? You know, kind of. When are we ever happy with refs?
No, we never. Do West Ham survive under Nuno?
I think so.
Do Watford survive in the Championship?
You'd have to ask Ryan back there. He knows
Ryan,
more
do you think you'll survive? No, Ryan's going down to League One.
They must be on their 4th manager by now, mustn't they? It's only September.
I'm going to say it's September. They should have been on their 4th manager, the mighty Watford. Ryan always looks a bit more interested. Thank you so much. Loads in the paper tomorrow. Sun Sport, the place to go, right?
100%, yeah. All your action for the Champions League last night, all the big news.
And of course the Ryder Cup, the greatest moment, honest to God, Sunday night, eh?
I'm sorry I couldn't come on yesterday to talk about it, but what a fantastic weekend.
It was unbelievable. Thank you very much to the marvellous Mike Anstey. All of you, sport in the sun. Sun Sport tomorrow. Buy the newspaper. Best place to look. News at 6 is next on Talk.
Do you think it's a racist policy?
Well, I do think that it's a racist policy. I do think it's immoral. It needs to be called out for what it is.
According to Keir Starmer, if you think young men that illegally cross the English Channel should be detained and deported, you're racist. In fact, if you even criticise any element of the immigration policies of the last two governments, you're racist. And yet the Home Secretary, Shubham Mahmood, tries to copy our policies.
Patriotism, a force for good, is turning into something smaller, something more like ethno-nationalism, which struggles to accept that someone who looks like me and has a faith like mine can truly be English or British.
Britain is being invaded. Thousands of fighting-age men from countries that despise Britain continue to arrive on our beaches. Our plan is the only appropriate response to a national security emergency. Immediate removal. Deportation is the ultimate deterrent.
Our flags flying proudly as we celebrate difference and oppose racism.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists.
We can all see that the country faces a choice, a defining choice. Britain stands at a fork in the road. We can choose decency, or we can choose division, renewal or decline.
To accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organisations like that. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good evening to you. Just after 6 o'clock, an hour to go on Talk Drive, the home, of course, of free speech and common sense, where there is absolutely...
That is such fake news. You're fake news. Listen, you're fake news. You're fake news.
Not on this station. Honesty, open discussion. As ever, if you want to be part of the debate, 0344 499 1000. You can ring that number to Jodie. You can send a voice note to Rye. You can, of course, also get us via the text machine, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Today has been dominated, as will every newspaper tomorrow, most of the shows tomorrow, about this astonishing... Well, it started with Keir Starmer standing up at the Labour Party conference, the leader, the Prime Minister of this country, with a stonking 180-seat almost majority. He didn't talk about Her Majesty's opposition. He didn't talk about how he would improve the problems in this country. He didn't talk... there was no substance. He basically said two things. Nigel Farage basically doesn't like Britain. He doesn't like the United Kingdom. He's divisive. He's detrimental to our future. And he's going to turn this country into a country of victims. This is part of what Dreary Starmer said earlier. Have a listen.
We can all see these snake oil merchants on the right, on the left, but be in no doubt conference. None of them have any interest in national renewal because decline is good for their business. I mean, think about it. When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain. Doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does.
I'm going to try and stay as balanced as possible. Decline is good for his business. That's how you managed to win the last election, mate, because of the Tories. He doesn't have a positive thing about the United Kingdom. You gave away the Chagos Islands and 16 billion quid. I thought that was bad enough. We're going to do a whole show on that. From absolutely nowhere at Reform HQ in London, Nigel Farage pops up. 2 flagpoles. All we needed was a Lexan with number 10 across. Talk about looking prime ministerial. And he made what has absolutely resonated with millions of people. These points. Have a listen.
Labour says these policies are racist and immoral. And by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. Yes, if you think we should control our borders, you are, by the definition of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, all racists. Now, I don't normally worry about abuse being thrown at me. I've got kind of used to it over the course of the last few years. But to accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow. Why? Well, this language will incite and encourage the radical left. I'm thinking of Antifa and other organisations like that. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
It's gone absolutely mad in the studio and on the lines and the text messages. Loads of people saying, so I'm racist. That label is really interesting, isn't it? Because by labelling people as racist, surely you are sowing even greater division. As if that wasn't enough, within an hour of that coming out, the Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary, David Lammy, who's been known to put his foot in it before, starting on Mastermind, had this to say about Farage, unbelievably.
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public.
David Lammy accusing Nigel Farage of flirting with the Hitler Youth, and 22 minutes and 35 seconds after he said that, he had to apologise profusely. I'd sue him. We say a very good evening at 6:07 to Talk's international editor, who is probably as open-mouthed as I am, Isabelle Oakshot. I'm going to start perhaps differently than I thought I was going to. I would say, and I have no ounce of political experience compared to you, that today Keir Starmer handed the next election to Nigel Farage on a plate, and there will have been people at Reform HQ rubbing their hands in glee. What a desperately pathetic attempt that will have alienated millions.
It was completely misjudged, but absolutely no surprise there. You know, he just can't help himself. No. They can't help themselves. Instead of rowing back on the errors they've made to date, what they did was double down, basically defending their appalling infringements of free speech, defending labelling so many good people, decent people, honest people, far-right thugs. He sought to pretend that when he used that label, he was only referring to people that actually threw things and injured people. But we all know that he wasn't. And there you have it with David Lammy truly showing what these people secretly think with those utterly pathetic, juvenile student politics labels about Nazi politics. I mean,
isn't it hate speech, though, Isabelle? Isn't that hate speech? Why haven't the police arrived on Lammy's doorstep saying you've said some hurty words, you need to go to jail? I'm being serious. It's hate speech.
Well, we all know what to expect in two-tier Keir's Britain. And although you said, and you're right, that there'll be people at Reform HQ kind of cheering these enormous political errors by the leader of our country. Equally, Nigel Farage spoke from the heart when he said that this kind of rhetoric genuinely puts lives at risk. This is a man who every day lives with the fear of somebody lurking round a corner, somebody lurking in a crowd, somebody sidling up to him for a selfie and injuring him. The threats that he lives with are very, very real. They're very credible. That's why he has massive security around him, probably as much on many days as Keir Starmer himself.
Probably more.
And it isn't just Nigel Farage, who is, you know, I'm afraid to use the word in the firing line, and know that's how he must feel. But everybody else that is part of this movement, this reform movement, because we know, I'm afraid history teaches us that it isn't always the obvious targets who take the brunt of the mad anger of certain crazy types.
I thought it was astonishing, an own goal. I mean, I'd watched in open-mouthed disbelief as Wes Streeting called for the return of Angela Rayner. I'd watched almost open-mouthed as this no substance to this speech, and I just thought it presented such an opportunity. I want to throw something to you actually quickly that we've just had in, which you'll love. Matthew Torbett, a former Labour advisor, friend of this station, the only person I allow on my show because he sees things readily, and he said on the night of the election, and I quote, on Channel 5, it must have been one of those stations, he said, "This is as good as it gets." He's been quite critical of Labour in the last few months. He's just put this on X, Isabelle. "I have agonised over making this public as I didn't want to embarrass my party, but after several emails with no response, I feel I have to share my concerns at what seems to be a freedom of speech issue." He's basically had his pass revoked for the Labour Party conference this afternoon and cannot get in. We have reached out to Labour and said, surely this is about free speech, and they haven't responded to us either. They are in panic mode, aren't they, Isabelle?
Oh, I mean, well, do you know what slightly worries me? I actually am not totally sure they are, because I think that they are totally delusional.
Yeah.
These are people that live in an echo chamber. Don't forget, they don't get out much. That's why they don't understand why so many ordinary people, when I say ordinary, I mean not political anoraks, not people who want actually to be part of politics, people who have never joined a political party before. That's why they don't understand why so many of these hardworking people who care about their country are so angry. So if they're not in a panic, they should be. But what I think is most worrying for our country is that they aren't in a panic and that they will continue on the same course. You know, if they were in a panic, that might point to actually doing things differently. Instead of that, what we've seen from today's speech is that they are doubling down on the very things that are hemorrhaging their party support in the first place. It's a pretty weird vote-winning tactic.
It's extraordinary, and I think absolutely solidifies in many people's minds who have contacted this show today that he has no political... I mean, I keep saying this. There's no DNA in him. There's nothing... He doesn't smell it. You would stand there today and you would go, right, we've made some big gaffes, and I've obviously listened to people, and we're going to do this. There was no substance at all. This was 3 years and 9 months out of a general election. a character assassination on a man who's been, you know, whether you support Nigel Farage or not, that's the last bloody resort. But do you know what? Even more shocking for me, and I said it to anybody and everybody, was that he would accuse Nigel Farage and Reform of being unpatriotic. The man who gave away the Chagos Islands and £16 billion in a heartbeat so he would look good in front of his left-wing human rights lawyers' mates. And essentially, you know, did you see all those delegates suddenly waving Union Jack?
Oh my God!
What is wrong with these people? They don't like. It just drives me nuts, man.
I mean, how embarrassed they must privately have felt, be asked to wave those little flags as if they're gathering for a carriage bringing Sarah Ferguson past or something. Like that. Please, you know, this is not authentic to them, and I don't understand why they don't understand. It's something I say quite often. Why do they continually double down on the things that are making them most unpopular? You know, it's just insulting to so many people to frame the debate in these very, very childish terms.
Can I just check that you're okay, though? I do try. I've got a duty of care to everybody who comes on this station. You are in a relationship with a racist. Are you okay? Are you handling?
Well, I think that we're quite often both characterised as racists, Jeremy. I mean, Richard Tice is Hitler and I'm Eva Braun. We're quite used to that. It's
I've got my music on. I'm taking you back to those days of the Jeremy Kyle show where people could unload, and if you are feeling nervous about, I couldn't give a toss, get rid of that music. I think it's really dangerous to use language like that, to be perfectly honest, and I think it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out, because we are 3 3/4 years out from a general election. There's no way that can be changed. We can talk about Starmer falling out of favour, but actually the alternative, Isabelle, is probably an even bigger lurch to the left. But I think what you're so right about is, I don't think right now this is about anything more than a completely deaf party in power who seemingly have got to a point where they refuse to accept that the silent majority have woken up in this country. And it doesn't work to simply call them divisive or deranged or far right or thugs, because actually these are decent, hard-working people who just feel they're not being treated correctly. And I think that's very dangerous for a party in power. I really do.
Yeah, and it just doesn't ring true to say that Nigel Farage and the people that support him, that he isn't patriotic. You know, when it's obvious to people, whether they agree with his policies, whether they like him personally or not, it's quite obvious that this is a man who could easily just, you know, slope off to America and make very good money, that could work in the Donald Trump camp in some capacity. And that he very, very nearly did do just before the general election. And he decided not to. Why? Not because he particularly likes working, 18, 19, sometimes probably 20-hour days. Trying to be the official opposition when you've only got a total of
achieved today. Achieved. I mean, which is also, can I just say very quickly, you make a really good point. 5 MPs, you're the only person and party that the Prime Minister talks about. Her Majesty's opposition, Isabelle, 121 MPs, a non-entity.
Where are they? I mean, right now, I wish, they might take a bit of the load off our lot, because, and I say our lot, I mean Reform's MPs, Richard Tice, my partner, they all have insane workloads. Yeah. But you know what? They don't resent it, because what they see here is a once in a lifetime opportunity to perhaps take our country in a different direction. And these opportunities are not even generational, Yeah. It is a unique moment, but the frustration for all of us that so desperately wants things to be different, that do love our country. In my case, wherever I choose to live, home is home, our country is our country. And, the frustration for all of us is, as you referenced, 3 years and 9 months. I mean, what do we do?
I don't know. We just keep doing this and we keep believing. They love doing this. Are you all right to take a couple of calls? They go, if Isabel's on, can we do some calls? They're all new callers today, which tells you something about the anger and the frustration. Roy is in Kent. Roy, Isabelle Oakshot and Jeremy Kyle are listening. What you got?
Yes, Jeremy, I'm amazed that no one reminds David Lammy of 2011 when he led and organised a march in support of one of his constituents, a known robber who was shot by police. He claimed that the police planted the gun in the car and accused the police of being murderers. That speech and march led to the riots in London and elsewhere. That march led to it. David Lammy hid for months afterwards, not available for the press or anything like that. But no one seems to remind him of what he did.
I'm astonished, Isabel. I don't know about you. I'm utterly astonished that David Lammy is the Deputy Prime Minister of this country. That to me makes... genuinely, you can all laugh at me. That makes me go, Jesus, anything's possible. I honestly, genuinely mean that.
I mean, it's sort of comical, except that it's quite serious. But, you know, the only consolation is that Deputy Prime Minister is a bit of a non-job, and when it's a serious job, it's allied with another cabinet role, which I don't think he actually has. It seems that his role is to kind of bounce around being a muppet and talking about racism and Nazis.
Sorry, you've called him a muppet. That's divisional and guttural politics. How dare you say that? We're sending the police to arrest you. But you called me a racist. That's different.
I forgot. But he made a good point. The caller there, Roy, made a really good point. I had actually sort of semi-forgotten, because it's a good long time ago now, about those riots. And I don't remember the specifics of his role in them, but you're right. I certainly recall that he had an inglorious role.
Roy, are you a Reform voter? Are you a Labour voter, a Tory voter, can I ask?
Well, I've always been Labour all my life until now, to be honest with you.
Well, this is really interesting. So you're a Labour supporter listening to this, and I think the Prime Minister today was very vocal about how this movement with Farage, which is gathering strength on a daily basis, is full of divisive thugs and right-wing fascist, Nazi, racists, basically, from what I can gather. What's your response to that?
Well, I have grandchildren and children who's half-caste, and I'm now being called a racist, which I find disgusting, to be honest with you.
I think it's
Roy,
dangerous.
these days we would be called racist for using the terminology that you have just used. You know, I think the modern way of expressing that is mixed race or of mixed heritage. But I think that you're appropriate it is to hurl around these terms like racist just because people use slightly different, maybe more old-fashioned language sometimes.
Couldn't agree more, Roy. Keep the faith. Thank you for being on. Another new caller all the way this afternoon. Burton-on-Trent. Calvin, you're on Talk Drive. JK and Isabelle Oakshot, how are you? Hello?
I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, good. What can we do for you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, I'm just phoning up because the Prime Minister said Farage hates Britain, but I can recall that the Prime Minister's standing in Parliament being asked does he like Davos or the UK, and he picked Davos, and there's somebody who's saying about Farage. So it proves that it's the Prime Minister that doesn't like the UK, because he wouldn't say that. He would have said he likes Westminster.
And I think also, let's look at it, in his first few weeks and months of his premiership, Isabel, and I agree with you, Calvin, he spent most of the time abroad. We know he's a globalist. We know he's somebody who, along with his left-wing human rights lawyer mates, wants to look good across the world, because otherwise you'd be here sorting out the mess that is Great Britain, wouldn't you?
Well, it's a lot easier to get on a plane.
Sorry, Isabel, go on. Sorry.
It's a lot easier to get on a plane and, you know, walk up red carpets and shake hands and, you know, mingle around other people like you than it is to face the music and actually face up to the fact that it is no longer remotely credible simply to keep on referencing what the last government did. We're not giving the last government any kind of free pass. They should never be forgiven for the damage that they did to our country. But there comes a point, and we're past it now, where it is not okay for Labour to use that as an excuse, and nor is it okay, by the way, this is a bit of a new thing they're doing, to talk about, you know, how the global picture has changed and there's various wars and things, and that's why they're screwing up the economy. No, it isn't. The reason they're screwing up the economy is because of their own ruinous tax and spend policies. And
Can I ask a question? Richard Tice is a financial genius. You're a genius as well. Is it not true to say that Labour have shown, thank you so much, Decav, Labour have shown themselves to be what I believed and have always believed they are, that they borrow too much to give money to people who they feel they should make their lives better, and only have one policy, which is to tax anybody who's ever achieved anything, and in the end they run out of money and with skin. Isn't that essentially what happens every time Labour gets in power?
Yeah, it basically is. You know, Liam Byrne, the former Labour minister, said it himself when he said, I'm sorry, there's no money left, you know, except that we seem to have reached that point a year into government rather than after however many years it was under Labour when Liam Byrne left that message. It was about 13 years, I think.
Extraordinary day. Do you believe that today, that's my favourite word, is a seminal day, however far away the election? I'm going to put something to you that you might... I think today is the day that Nigel Farage realises, or the people realise, is a shoo-in to be the next Prime Minister of this country. I genuinely believe it.
I mean, I looked at him with those flags behind him, standing behind what very deliberately looked like a Downing Street lectern, and I thought, wow. I just thought, you know, for those of us that have been on the sort of Farage journey for a very long time, you know, people used to make jokes, oh, you know, one day you'll be in Downing Street, and I'd be like, yeah, you know, thinking to myself, that's never going to happen, because it seemed such an impossibility under the voting system that we have. I looked at him today and I thought, you know, you're already out prime ministering the actual prime minister.
Completely.
You know, many people look to you right now as if you're basically an acting prime minister. It really could happen.
Great to have you on. Thank you. I know how busy you are. We appreciate your time as ever. Talk's international editor Isabelle Oakshot, 6:25. We're live across the UK. Kev's here with his political asylum from 7 o'clock tonight. And the amazing Harry Cole, the new show, Harry Cole Saves the West, live and exclusive here on Talk and his YouTube channel from 10 o'clock. We're back with a man, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett, who's had his pass revoked from the Labour conference, he's found out this afternoon, because he dared to criticise the government. What was that about free speech, Starmer, you lying git?
what Keir said was that we got it wrong in not appreciating just how much of an issue it was across the country when it came to migration. And migration is lots of different things. I mean, it is obviously asylum seeking, it is small boats, and it is obviously legal migration, for which the open borders policy of the previous government, really caused a lot of damage to public trust in this country, and we now recognise that. I don't think at the time we recognised just how much it was becoming a priority deeply rooted in communities around the country. We do. We're now acting on it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You've just gone mad for this today. Welcome to Talk Drive. Crazy day with Starmer and Nigel Farage, Prime Ministerial, many of you are saying, and then Lammy saying Farage flirted with the youth, the Hitler Youth, and he had to row back and apologise. This is another astonishing story. I'm delighted to be joined from Liverpool, not from the conference though, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi, Jez. How are you doing?
I feel somewhat guilty. I know I value you as a friend, and I value you also as somebody who cares passionately about what your role is. You are and have been a Labour advisor. You've been on this station many times. You posted this on X earlier. I've agonised over making this public because I didn't want to embarrass the party, but after 2 emails with no response, I feel I have to share my concerns at what seems to be a freedom of speech interview. I've done no media this year or interviewed anyone. I appeared in a work capacity and spoke about my life story on a panel about lost boys alongside a current sitting minister and a former Secretary of State. The latter, during his opening remarks, asked the audience to applaud me once for what I'd shared. I joined Labour because I felt like it was the best vehicle for social change in this country and was full of good people who wanted to create change. I don't recognise this party. I always aim to talk about ideas with respect, calm and decency. Apparently that doesn't matter. What you put on X is as a result of you having your pass to the Labour Party conference revoked. How did you find that out? What have you been told? What the hell's going on, man?
So I've not been told anything. That's the sort of bizarre thing. I've been at the conference since Sunday. I spoke on a panel about lost boys and what we need to do to regain and steer boys the right way. But there's a lot of challenges there for people to do. Jonathan Ashworth was very, very nice about me, and he said, I think we need to give him another round of applause for what he's just shared and the way that he speaks, which was very kind of him. Monday I was working, I was networking, the sort of normal conference stuff, and it was only when I left to go to a reception outside of the conference area and I tried to come back in to go to a broadcaster's reception that they scanned my pass as they do when you go in, and they said, no sir, your pass isn't valid. And I said, oh, do you want to do it again? He's obviously quite confused, and he scanned it. I said, can I have a look? Is that right? And obviously that's the picture I've shared of my picture saying your pass has been rescinded. I had to let my partner go through. I said, no, you go to the party. Don't worry about me. I'm a bit confused. I went to go and see conference services this morning. They had no idea. And then I received an email, with the letter that I've shared on.
Let me read this to people as well, because this is frightening. Dear Mr Torbett, your conference pass has been cancelled. I'm writing to let you know that we've had to make the difficult decision to cancel your conference pass with immediate effect. Why we've taken this action? We have a responsibility to safeguard all our delegates, staff, volunteers and visitors, and to maintain a safe and welcoming environment for everyone at conference. After careful consideration, we've concluded that we cannot continue your attendance whilst ensuring we meet our safeguarding obligations to all attendees. attendees. Your conference pass is no longer valid and you won't be able to attend any further conference sessions on site. We'll process a refund of your conference pass, which will appear on your original payment method within 10 working days. If you feel you would benefit from support following this decision, we would encourage you to reach out to appropriate service or speak to someone you trust. In addition, the safeguarding unit can be contacted during conference on this number. We've used your personal information to manage this situation and ensure everyone's safety. Full details are available on the Labour website. I know what this must do to you, actually. It's astonishing. Why? Any ideas?
Yeah, well, I can only guess, and I've emailed twice to conference services and the governance and legal unit at the Labour Party that I received this from. I've tried to find out. There's been no response. I gave it 4 hours. I said I feel like I will have to take further action, and I've spoken to people who are willing to support to try and find this out, and further action might be taken. I've heard absolutely nothing from anybody. I have heard from a Labour MP on the NEC that they have no idea why my conference pass was taken away. They are aware of why Owen Jones and other journalists may have been. Now,
it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear, I should say to you, that the guys have been following this for me while I'm doing the show. It's pretty clear from the response to your post on X that journalists across the political world and supporters on both the left and the right find this decision outrageous. It's against freedom of speech, and they're totally supportive of you, Matty, as we are, of course.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I had a bit of an emotional moment before, because you start to think, well, maybe I did deserve this, and this shouldn't be normalised. And in a way, I suppose it's chilling. I don't want to sound like over-dramatic, but I come onto different shows. I don't just come on your show. I go on right shows, left shows, middle shows, whatever. And I try to be fair.
You are.
MPs I speak to think I'm fair, and I have my criticisms, and I always will. If you feel so insecure potentially as a government that people like me bother you, I would suggest that says more about the insecurity of the government. And I think all I ever do, I don't think I'm in any way controversial. I try to talk about what I consider to be traditional Labour values, and that be class, control on borders, and all manner of other things, and funding public services. And I'm astounded if it is more of a sort of threat against freedom of speech. I've not gone around vox popping people. I've not done any media this week. I was due to do some this evening, which obviously is now not the case. All I've done is speak to people and shared ideas. That's
I would say that you're one of the most balanced, respectful and calm commentators that we have. I joke that you're the only lefty I allow. I think you look at things in an incredibly genuine way. I know that you feel so angry about things that are happening. You did when the Conservatives are in power, and also the Labour Party. And I think it's hugely disrespectful. I have to ask you the question, do you believe that because, say, being on talk is part of the issue for these people who think that they're to the right a little bit, they're right of centre, they're always criticising? I mean, we reach out to government ministers every day. When Labour were in opposition, they were on my breakfast show before Mike started doing it. They were across the day. Mike's team, the teams across the day, have reached out since they got into government. They will not give us the time of day. Do you believe that because you've been on us and LBC, GB News, just name it, you've been in other stations, do you think that's a reason?
Yeah, of course it is. And I suppose, I am a very small cog in a whole host of commentators and broadcasters. There are many more prominent than me. I suppose the danger maybe is I have built up a community over the last year or two who I think feel that I am genuine and that I speak my true thoughts. I am not giving lines. You ask me a question, I will answer it as fairly and as truthfully as I can. And maybe that is a threat to, I don't know, a lack of authenticity. I don't know is the truth. I've just found it. I'm not angry. It's upset me.
Yeah.
It's hurtful. And I think, I've slugged my guts out for this party and continue to try and do so in many ways. And this is the thanks you get, you know what I mean? It's incredibly hurtful.
Do you recognise your party?
No, this isn't the party I joined. It hasn't been the party I joined for quite some time. And maybe some would say that's for the better. We're in government now. I think the individuals involved can be incredibly peevish and nasty. I always aim to get on with everybody. I aim to be polite and courteous. And listen, I'm not perfect. I'll lose my temper sometimes, as you've seen on air. I get deeply frustrated because I see us failing. But that's because I see us failing. I want to see us win. I want to see us to see off Nigel Farage. I want us to succeed. And if that is me criticising the current operation, I think we're better to do that than the Labour Party conference, amongst other members.
This is interesting. Nigel, this is from Ivor. Matthew Torbett's cancellation is an echo of what's to come with Labour's digital ID cards. We don't like what you say. We've rescinded your right to say it. Matty, for you, when you saw, if you're OK with this, today, I mean, I've done shows for 30 years. Today's blown my mind. I mean, we had an elected Prime Minister with a huge majority who's decided quite seriously 3 years and 9 months out from an election that it's time for guttural politics. I'm going to now stick it into a man who's only got 5 MPs and I'm going to call him a racist. I didn't actually have anybody in my ear who said to you, you know, if you do that, the millions of people who put them at the top of the polls for the last year are then going to say, he's calling me a racist, and create the very division that you're saying exists simply because Farage is apparently anti the UK. I thought today, and then of course Farage, 2 flags, they only needed a lectern to be in number 10. He looked to me more prime ministerial than Starmer. Lammy then comes out and says, Nigel Farage flirted with the Hitler Youth. That was rescinded within 20 minutes. I would say today, your decision whether you want to respond, signals the absolute beginning of the end for not only Keir Starmer but the Labour dream. I don't see how you can be that politically naive.
Yeah, I've had this discussion with people all week because I said, you know, I think he's had criticisms from within the party, certainly from the membership, of whether he's showing more than just a bit of leg to sort of reform and whether he can out-reform reform. So he's on home turf here and he's obviously decided to push back a little against Nigel. The concern for me is if you consider this racist, and maybe you've got a legitimate concern that it is, you've set the bar now. So every policy reform it leads with the question, so is this one racist Prime Minister or is this one racist Prime Minister? And there are many people with legitimate concerns about the channel crossings and otherwise, maybe not ILRs, I think that's a different debate. But I suppose somebody said to me, do you think it will drive people towards reform? And I said, no, I don't necessarily think that. But I do think it could drive people away from Labour. If you think there is somebody looking down at you going, you're a racist, you're wrong, you shouldn't be angry, and that's how this will be perceived, you know. And I also think, I'm not sure any other minister, any cabinet member would have used those words, but it creates a comms issue because now when they're asked, it is, do you agree with the Prime Minister? And that puts them under pressure when many of them are facing the threat of reform in their constituencies and have got to try and tackle that whilst aiming to listen to that side as well. So I think it probably wasn't his wisest remarks and he's tried to play to the home crowd a little bit.
Before we let you go, and I really, you know, I hope this works out because I think you're a fantastic commentator, a great bloke. We appreciate it. And I hope being on this show hasn't. But I mean, I think there's a whole issue here. I know what you're going to say, but I have to ask the question. Does today make you consider leaving the Labour Party?
Listen, it's crossed my mind, and it shouldn't, because I still think with the right people, it is the right place to be. I hope we can find a path forward, and if it isn't meant to be, and for whatever reason the party think I'm too much of a nuisance, that they actually, you know, kick me out or otherwise, then there we are. I've always felt more independently minded in my true self anyway, and such is life. There's something to be said, though, when members, not just me, but members don't feel appreciated or loved and don't feel like the work and the volunteering they do is appreciated. And you haven't got any members, you're going to struggle at election time. That's all I'd say.
It's probably going to be the softest thing I've ever said. You're always welcome here, mate. We think you're a top man. Thank you so much indeed. Matthew Torbett there on Talk Drive.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Can I just say again about Matthew Torbett? Matthew Torbett would not have my politics, perhaps. What he is a professional, a good broadcaster and a good bloke. And loads of you responding. Pam Travis, I'm absolutely disgusted at the way Labour has treated Matthew. He is one of, if not the nicest Labour person you have on. He's always truthful, fair, polite and always worth listening to. There are many people that will feel the same as me, and I hope we see more of Matthew Torbett on Talk and other media. Pam, thank you, and we'll forward that to Mal. Also, Anne, please tell Matthew we love him. He's the only lefty I watch. Reform awaiting. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? But bear in mind, without going into details about his life, because that's not right, this is a kid who believes fervently in fairness about working people and improving people's lives, and that's why he joined Labour. For them to cancel his pass in front of other people, ostracise him, simply because he might have gone on this station and other stations and they don't like him criticising them. You talk free speech, Starmer. God, today, mate, you've made so many cock-ups. It's time to be a little bit more light-hearted. It's been an absolute roller coaster. It's that moment of the show where Jodie goes a slightly red colour and gets all a bit fluttery, and I've just seen only one finger. Oh, good, it's the middle one. Johnny Lucas, a.k.a. Sarge, the night news editor of The Sun. She's shaking, she's salivating, she's all sweaty. How are you, boy?
Very well, thank you.
Fake news. Fake news. Fake news.
You don't get that on Talk.
Come on, you are fake news. Okay, you're fake. You're fake
shut
news.
up, Donald. You don't get that in the Sun newspaper. How are you?
Absolutely, very well.
This story about reform and Starmer, you're basically saying to millions of people who read the Sun, people who watch Talk, you're a racist.
Yeah, well,
that's basically what he's saying.
That's it. So this is the keynote. This is Starmer's keynote speech at a conference, and he has really set the paper light on the firing gun on the next general election. The fascinating thing about it is, obviously, in the past, he'd be taking aim at the Tories.
Oh.
Tories nowhere in his sights.
121 seats, not even mentioned. A man with 5 seats. But did you not in the newsroom think what we thought? Within 10 minutes, Reform HQ, I knew this because I knew this earlier, they were gearing up in case anything was said. 2 flags, it only needed a lectern and number 10. He looked more prime ministerial today, Farage, than Starmer did, didn't he?
Yeah, well, look, it's, you know, what Starmer's done is he's starting to draw the battle lines here for this election. And, you know, it's very polarising because, as has been remarked upon by your guest this afternoon, lots of people will agree with Nigel Farage. They might not even agree with everything, but they agree with some aspects of what the party does. And essentially what Starmer is doing is setting up a sort of us versus them situation.
And the interesting thing about that, pal, is he talked all afternoon about, the speech was all about division. Farage is all about division. Farage said, you have to be really careful. Look what happened in America with Charlie Kirk. And I think, you know, for me, you're a journalist, I'm a broadcaster, right? He absolutely has played into Farage's hands.
Yeah, exactly. And also this thing about, he's saying, well, look, Farage, he doesn't talk up Britain, he doesn't believe in Britain, he's always talking about grievance. But of course, and Starmer will know this, that's what you do when you're in opposition. When you're in opposition, you're sitting there on the sidelines, you're not in power, and you're pointing out all the things that are going wrong in the country. Yeah. And, you know, your job, I would suggest, if you're in the government, is to try and have as few things going wrong as possible so that you win the next election. And that's doesn't seem to be happening.
Is that going to be front page, renew or reform? Very, very interesting. Nicole Kidman was reportedly left blindsided by a split from country music icon Keith Urban and was even pictured with a wedding ring on just days ago. The sad news that their split broke on Monday. What's caused this? I heard it was a lack of intimacy.
Yeah, well, massive showbiz split here. You don't get too many of these huge A-listers, especially the ones who've been together for, I don't know, 19 years married.
Yeah.
And, you know, this might be on the front page because I know Clemmy Moody, you know, our top showbiz...
Good girl. Lady, you're allowed to say that, editor,
she's got an inside line on this, so that will all be in the paper. But so from what I have gathered reading this, obviously Nicole does a lot of fairly racy scenes, and she's been in there was this very sexy erotic thriller called Baby Girl, which I haven't seen. But maybe
Look at Jodie's look towards the studio when you said that.
And
she's seen it. She's seen it. Jodie's just told me.
And she's been in these very sexy scenes with people like Zac Efron, and there have been some awkward interviews with Keith. So Keith Urban is the husband, who she's now split from, where he seems to be quite uncomfortable with it. Well, I suppose you can sort of understand it. But if you marry one of the world's most beautiful women, she's a top Hollywood actress, sort of.
Must be difficult seeing your loved one writhe with somebody else. All right, Jode? I agree. No, listen, it's interesting. But yeah, Clemmy, who we love, Clemmy Moody will have the inside on that. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have split, 2 kids as well. So remember that. Also, really emotive interview from Prince William today, admitting he really misses the late Queen and Prince Philip, and says it's been quite a bit of change.
Yeah, that's it. So he's made this, we've seen a bit of it already, he's made this episode with Eugene Levy, the US actor. It's called The Reluctant Traveller, and it's going to be on Apple TV. And he's made this episode with him where Eugene comes to Windsor, and we saw a bit of last week where he sat in the pub with him and he's talking about you know, Kate's health battles. And we've got a little bit more from this today, which so he's talking about the Queen's death, and he's saying, you know, it's actually been very hard. It's been a lot of change. You know, I love being here in Windsor. She loved being here in Windsor.
That's why they've moved back to Windsor. This is... Listen, I lived there for ages. He went to Eton, and every Sunday he walked up the hill and had Sunday lunch with his grandmother and grandfather. And I think, you know, somebody wrote a story the other day saying, you know, he's had a hard time. He lost his mother as well. He's worked his backside off. His wife had cancer. He tried to be a full-time father whilst worrying about whether his wife was going to survive. His brother's gone completely rogue. He's dealing with all of that. He lost his grandparents. I think we should cut the boy a bit of slack. I think he's going to be a fantastic king. I've always thought that.
Absolutely.
And this is astonishing. An 11,000-foot skydive miracle.
Yeah, amazing. So this is the story of Mitch Deakin. So he is... he's a 25-year-old guy from Lancashire.
Yep.
And he has been in the US, and he went on a tandem skydive over the Nevada desert, and that nightmare scenario happened. So he's strapped to somebody, obviously, in a tandem dive. The parachute didn't open, and the backup parachute didn't open. They were 11,000 feet, and they've plunged to earth. They would have hit the ground just in the desert around 45 miles per hour. So neither of these men were killed. The instructor has suffered some quite serious injuries. He's still in hospital. But amazingly, Mitch, he had a fractured pelvis, broken ribs, he's had a perforated lung, and he's had some kidney damage. But he was 25 yesterday. So this happened 5 or 6 days ago. He was 25 yesterday. He was able to celebrate this in hospital. He's up walking around. His family had to raise quite a bit of money to get over there, because obviously in the States, you know, everything costs a lot if you have a medical issue. But it's absolutely incredible how he's done it, how that has happened. It's just unbelievable. So
would you do a skydive?
I was asked recently whether I do. Absolutely not.
No. Rye, would you do a skydive? Jodie, would you dive? Oh, honestly, Jodie, really, she changes everything. Anyway, the newspaper's out tomorrow, The Sun, are brilliant. And are you not here? Why don't you do Wednesdays, Sargy boy?
Well, I'm usually off with my my son.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. See, even more. Oh, he's got a son, he's a daddy, and he's also gorgeous. John Lucas, Night News Editor, we love you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed for being on. The Sun is out tomorrow. Buy it. All about that reform challenge from Keir Starmer. More also from Clemmy Moody. Showbiz jet. She's amazing, Clemmy Moody. Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban have split. And that interesting interview from William. I miss the Queen. Life has changed so much. This is Talk Drive.
what Keir said was that we got it wrong in not appreciating just how much of an issue it was across the country when it came to migration. And migration is lots of different things. I mean, it is obviously asylum seeking, it is small boats, and it is obviously legal migration.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
4 minutes to 7, we're live across the UK. Stand by for Kev. He's here with his political asylum from 7 o'clock. Get your calls in right now. Remember, on this station...
That's such fake news.
None of this.
You're fake news.
No, I'm not.
Listen, you're fake news. You're fake news.
I'm not. It's true. Open and honest on this station. 0344 499 1000. Steve Thomas says, good evening. Regarding Matthew Torbett, you can cut a man's tongue out. It doesn't mean the man is wrong. It means you are scared of what the man has to say. Matthew Torbett garnering huge response. If you were listening earlier, a friend of this show, yes, he's a former Labour advisor who's been critical of Labour, turned up at the conference today, day 3, to find that his pass had been rescinded and he's banned from conference. Tony says, banning Matthew Torbett from the Labour Party conference is just ultimately embarrassing. Georgia Croydon, I feel sorry for Matthew Torbett. Even though he was on the left, he was always fair and talked common sense. Never bored of listening to him. Hope he can find some place at Talk. Wouldn't mind him joining Reform UK. Talk TV, Matthew Torbett, I feel sorry for him. Watching him defend the party, he clearly has lost trust in him. What a brilliant bloke, says David from Beaconsfield. Matthew is. Labour don't deserve him. Cheers, Jez. Labour cutting out their own people now. In fact, they are digging their own graves as no other parliament has ever done. I say good evening to Kev O'Sullivan.
Hello.
I know you are the king of TV, and I've only just done this job recently, whereas I was much better at TV than you. But I have to tell you, I have never seen response like this. I have never seen anger. We started with Starmer going, you've only got 5 MPs. Basically, you're the opposition, not Tories, and you're all racist. Yep. Farage then, totally Prime Ministerial with 2 flags, only missing a lectern and a number 10 banner, basically said, so you're calling millions of people racist. Lammy then says, did you see that?
Oh, yeah, of course I did.
Yeah, Nigel Farage, Hitler Youth, then he's had to rescind that. People have gone nuts, Kev, on a scale I've never seen before.
Yes, Nigel Farage instantly stole the Prime Minister's thunder. I watched the entire Starmer speech. It was incredibly uninspiring, not very good at all.
No substance, mate.
You know, throughout most of it, he was just getting polite ripples of applause. So it really did not change the dial for him. No mention, by the way, of his beloved ID card scheme. So he's clocked that the entire nation hate that. Barely a mention of the Tories. Obsessional mentions of reform. In came Farage straight afterwards and completely stole his thunder. Look at social media. It's all Farage.
I would not... listen, you might have a go at me. By the way, can I say, if you've sent a message and we haven't read it out, we've been inundated. I appreciate it so much. Kev is here. Keep those calls coming. I would say today is the day that Nigel